will be slightly alleviated when Nabisco's breakthrough TC McCrispy's line of crackers arrives today. Available in regular, Garden Ranch, and Zesty Cheddar, the new crackers will flood consumers' bodies with fat, salt, and starch to produce a pleasing sensation of warmth and nourishment, momentarily freeing them from a relentless, crushing sense of profound grief. Mel Krychek is Nabisco's Director of Corporate Communications.
Our tasty new snack cracker will, if only for a few lovely moments, significantly lessen the hideously bleak and empty torment of modern life that festers in every solitary soul.
Nabisco expects most despair-riddled consumers to eat an entire box in one sitting. Doyle Redland for The Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. 603-283-6160. Call in with whatever you'd like to talk about. Tonight in the studio you have me, Lori.
Me, Bonnie.
And Richie Rich.
And we've got some things to talk about tonight. Of course, I'm sure we'll talk about Trump. We've got some
fine.
school racism and Christian extremists justifying their violence and kink for kids. So first we're going to go, though, to the phones. We have Dave Ridley. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, guys. Well, had a thought, obviously, with regard to the attempted assassination. I have a question. So would you feel safer or less safe if this assassination attempt had happened in a different country?
I don't think it would matter.
Well, personally, if some assassination attempt happened in France, I would care less than it happening in America. Not that I feel super unsafe, but it does kind of seem like, they're going to try to use all kinds of things to justify crazy violence soon.
Yeah, I don't feel unsafe now.
I don't feel more or less unsafe than I did, yesterday when I woke up.
This is why I only feel slightly less safe. It's because I believe that the government uses things like this to justify crazy stuff. Not because I think, the average person is actually a killer and now all of a sudden they're going to go after me.
I also don't go to political rallies. So my general safety surrounding this incident is just as random as it would be going to the grocery store on a normal day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's within our power, it's within a state's power to make these kind of things so that it does happen in another country, right? If we weren't in the United States, this would affect us a lot less. If New Hampshire were not in the United States, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Go on.
That's the
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This would have been foreign news if New Hampshire were its own state separate from the U.S.
Yeah.
Oh my God, look at those idiots over there. Just like we would if they were anyplace else.
It's a hideous act, right? Mostly because, when you assassinate a political leader, it creates follow-up killings or violence that affect innocent people. That's why you don't do it, or it's one of the main reasons you don't.
This one already affected an innocent person.
I think, unfortunately, the way things have been for so long, that it's not even able to add to the amount of violence and ridiculousness that goes on because it's already so high. How can you even quantify a bigger amount when it's a constant issue? It's
I think a normal person on the street who doesn't think much would be maybe afraid because they think, these extremist Republicans that have guns are going to start killing me randomly and now I'm scared. But then I also think there's a actually smart way to be thinking about it where you think that you're in more danger now. And it's because the government is going to use it for an excuse for something crazy next. And it's just like COVID. When COVID came out, I was never oh my gosh, there's a new organically happening virus that it's gonna come and hurt me. I need to not get a freaking cold or else I'm gonna die. I was
Well,
the government might have created some crazy thing that's going to hurt me.
When COVID happened, crazy Americans were attacking Asians in New York. So it's not unfathomable that Americans are dumb, right? Like after 9/11 happened, there was an attack on Muslims and brown people just because they happen to be Muslim or brown in certain areas of the country.
Yeah, but something didn't happen that attacks brunette white women. So I don't know.
Which is why you're safe. But if you
different scenario.
If you were a Biden supporter, right, and an out liberal on the streets in a rural area where Trump supporters are, and they're like, "This is the guys that like set up my man Trump," right? Because Trump derangement syndrome is a thing. You could foresee some possible retaliation.
Trump derangement syndrome?
Are you not familiar with that term?
No.
It works both ways.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I could totally see it going both ways.
I love that there's a name for it, though. There's a name for everything. That's what I'm saying, though. Like it's such a constant influx of vitriol from all sides on all issues that it's already probably the most unsafe country, America, like for the individual person.
Depends, right? Like maybe depends on like your situation and condition. New Hampshire is safer than most, mostly because, heterogeneity and gun laws are favorable.
Heterogeneity?
Heterogeneity.
Oh,
okay. Mostly white.
Heterogeneous, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like I've heard that sound different. It's heterogeneous.
Yeah.
But that's totally a different word I see.
Yep.
Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, across the board at the top, favorable gun laws, mostly white.
And then the government still came up with some crazy man to try to make a mass shooting event here, but he failed because someone killed him at that hospital.
Anything else, Dave?
As a concrete example of what I'm talking about, national borders don't protect you against very many things, but one thing they do protect you against is bad policies on the other side of the border. So as an example of this, there were a series of assassinations in Quebec in the 70s, terrorist attacks, things like this. There was a political assassination where they had killed a guy who was a Quebecois independence supporter. They killed him about 5 or 10 years ago. But no one in New Hampshire ever hears about these things even. I'm probably the only one that follows it at all. And the reason is because it's a separate country.
Yeah, who cares what happens in Canada?
And that's what we need. That's what we need between us and the United States. We need the same kind of border between us and the United States is the Quebec border, except people are allowed to cross it freely.
At least one way, right? The United States might still lock New Hampshireites out of the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Well, I'm for it.
I just don't really think that would happen. Like, I definitely think it's a might or a possibility, but I don't think it would.
You need a passport to get into Canada and Mexico now.
No, I mean, I'm for secession, not like getting locked out of the rest of the country.
Okay.
Oh, that's what I thought you meant too. I was like, I like the rest of the country.
If you want to go visit your family in Texas and you're a felon, right? Like, too bad. You're not allowed anymore.
Being a felon, that is a big difference.
At least one way. We can let felons in if we're going to have the open borders in New Hampshire.
They just can't get out.
I've always heard you don't need a passport to go to Mexico. That's what I've always heard. Are you saying it changed?
I believe at some point it changed because it used to be okay into Canada and Mexico. And then I forget what event. It might have been 9/11 that, all of a sudden it became a lockdown thing.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure that you need a passport to go to Mexico, like even just right over the border to whatever the name of those shopping towns are. They used to just let you come in with your ID and then leave again.
Yeah.
I think you need them now.
I'm fine if I'm wrong, but, it used to be different and now it's changed. That's why they have the real ID as the passport and trying to get everybody else all the states to do real ID compliant identification cards.
I think it's so funny that like every time I've ever been to an airport in my entire life, there are these signs up there like, in 2 years, you're going to need a real ID, so you better get on that. And then they change it and change it and change it. Last time I was in line, I was so happy to hear someone say, I'm not getting a real ID. Never heard that before. I was like, nice.
I had to go get a new ID because I had to cash a postal money order. I haven't had one in 5-6 years. So I went and got one. And while I was there, I saw the ladies working at the desk. I forget what they're called. Convincing other people not to get a real ID and just to get a normal ID.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is this? Is this at the DMV or somewhere else?
Yeah, it was at the DMV.
Because I've never gotten an ID. I've only ever gotten a driver's license.
Yeah, you still go to the same place.
Well, in New Hampshire, it's because New Hampshire was pushing very hard not to be compliant for whatever reason.
Interesting. Never knew that.
I like the system in Arizona. In Arizona, you go to like it's a store basically, and it's not government employees. It's just some people who work in the store, and you just fill out some paperwork, and then they give you an ID or a license or whatever.
My cousin just got married in Alabama, and they just went to the UPS store because you can go to any notary.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Dave
left us. Thanks for the call,
okay.
Dave.
He was like,
So-
I don't care what they're talking about. Bye.
Yeah.
I do have a privately issued free market identification card, and that worked almost everywhere.
Really?
You know, I've gotten into bars, I've gotten into clubs,
Do
I've
they,
purchased alcohol,
make a
purchased cigarettes.
big deal out of it? Like if you wanted to go into a club with it, do they like, wait, I got to talk to my manager or anything like that? Because just having a Utah ID when I first moved to Texas, it seemed like almost every bar that ID'd me, not only did they think I was underage and lying to them or something, but they also said sometimes they would just not let me in and say like, I can't do it because it's out of state ID, like very rarely, and that really sucked. And then sometimes they would just go off and talk to their manager for a while and then come back and tell me I was fine.
So you have that here?
I've had it for way longer than the picture on it would indicate. Like
But in New Hampshire,
pictures
and
on
it's
old.
worked here?
No, I haven't used it in New Hampshire.
Okay.
I haven't had the opportunity to use it.
Okay.
But it's worked other places.
Yeah, I had the same situation. Like when I first moved to Utah, I had a Massachusetts ID still.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, so I had Massachusetts has a thing called a liquor ID, which is not a license and not like a state ID. It's specifically like proof of being over 21 so you can buy alcohol or go to the bar. And anywhere that I went with that out of Massachusetts was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I'm not taking this. I don't know what it is. This doesn't look like anything.
That sucks. I've never heard of that though.
I guess a little bit of me like relies on the laziness of the clerk, right? So the date of birth on there is accurate as far as I know of my date of birth, and it's large enough to read very quickly.
Yep.
Right. And as far as I know, the entrapment laws for using a fake ID or getting caught with it is they can't lie to the clerk, right? Like if someone shows me an ID and they're underage and their ID says that they're overage, I can't know the difference.
Okay.
Right. So the underage people will present an ID that shows that they're underage to avoid any sort of entrapment. So my ID says I'm old enough to get in, right? And it's nothing that they have seen before, right? So they're not worried about being entrapped or that I'm trying to pass something off as fake, because you can't do that. The cops can't do that. So they go like, all right, you said you're old enough. Well, welcome to the club.
Yeah. Maybe if you were like Bonnie, where you look extremely young, they might challenge you about it.
Maybe.
Me at 22, it was literally never not a problem.
Yeah. I've even had problems like when I went and got this new ID, I had just the paper ID for a while, and I have had problems with that paper ID being the age that I am, them still being like, are you sure this? I don't know if I can take this. Is this real? Like, I'm plenty old enough. You could just, I don't even know why you're IDing me.
Because the government told them to.
Yeah.
They told them they'd be in a lot of trouble if they didn't.
Which is silly. I obviously look old enough to buy everything and get all the things.
Okay.
Like, there's no reason other than the government told them to, and they have to follow their orders.
But it could also be that it's expired, which is just as stupid. It's like you have to have a ID and it can't be expired. It's like the government gave that to me at this point. The math shows that I'm the right age. That's not going to change.
Yeah, it expired, so now your birthday is different.
Yeah.
Yep. Also dumb.
Yeah,
But
also
they're
dumb.
Following the rules.
Yeah. If you don't have to get another one, then they don't get money for it again.
Just remind them that, the Nazis couldn't get away with just following orders, and they should start thinking for themselves too. Mm-hmm. Clerks at 7-Eleven love it. When you tell
I'm
them
sure they'd love that. Yeah. I know that it's not, ultimately they're just trying to do their job, but
You know who else was just trying to do their job? The Nazis.
I mean,
Look what we did to those people.
That's not really a good measure of equation.
Sure it is. It's the same excuse.
But it's
Ma'am,
not
I'm just doing my job.
not the same
government
result.
told me to do something, and this is what I'm doing.
But to them,
Okay.
it's really
I'm
just
just
their
following
bosses
orders.
told them, not the government.
if
the
clerk
same with the
at-
Nazis.
If the clerk at 7-Eleven was trying to throw me in a train car to go gas me, yeah, but like they just want to see a piece of paper so they don't get fired, and I'm
Yeah.
not gonna hold that against them.
Which is why privately issued free market identification card works, because they saw the piece of paper, it's good enough for them.
How do you
They're
get
not
such
going
a
to get
thing?
fired. You go online and you find a place that'll print you an ID card. And you print one.
One time I worked at a convenience store and a cop came in like late, not late in the night, but like afternoon, and like no one else had been in for a while. He comes in and he was like dressed as a cop and everything, gave me his little card that said who he was. And he just was like, I need to ask you a few questions about things like our protocols. He asked me, like, for example, one that stood out was, do you guys sell loose cigarettes? I was like, no. And what did he have? Oh yeah, he was like, so before he started, he was like, so can I get your name? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, technically you cannot give me your name, but you'd be the first out of about 2,000 people that I've done this with who didn't. And I was like, that's fine, I'll be the first. And he was pissed.
Do I get an award?
Yeah. I
want
felt
the
like that was an
trophy.
award.
Yeah. It's the loose cigarettes thing too is simply for, their tax stamp. There's no other reason why you shouldn't be able to sell a loose cigarette.
No, they're way more dangerous that way.
Yeah.
I
If you
think
bought them that
smokers
way.
should sell their loose cigarettes to like bums. Someone would pay $1 for it.
I mean, people do.
Yeah.
Yeah. They come up to you and they say, hey, can I buy a cigarette for $0.25 or
Yeah.
$1 or whatever it is?
I'm saying $1. Everyone's got $1 for a cigarette.
$1.
Smokers will always spend $1 on a cigarette.
Luckily, cigarettes aren't $20 a
But-
pack yet.
But
It
if you sell
depends.
like half your pack, right, then you're already paying for your pack by just selling it to bums.
Yes, it's true.
I
Or,
know.
people at the bar too.
Yeah, whatever.
That's a big thing. Like people at the bar they just want to smoke a cigarette because they're
Right.
drinking, and so
Yeah.
then they buy a cigarette off somebody. But it depends on the bum. The area that you're in has like different flavors of bums. Like
Okay.
in Utah, they would ask you for a cigarette and a quarter instead of like offering to pay.
Wow.
This is ridiculous.
Some areas it's more menthols.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I don't know if they really discriminate that much. There was one time when I was in Utah, I was standing on the platform waiting for the train to come by, and this bum came up to me and he was like, "Hey, can I have a cigarette?" And I had just lit my cigarette, and I saw the train coming. I was like, "I just lit this. You can have the rest of it if you want." And he was like, "Do you have like one that you haven't smoked?" And I was like, "You get nothing.
Yeah.
Like, go get a job."
You ruined it for the next guy too, because
No,
I
I'll
was
still
feeling
give it
generous.
to the next guy.
Oh no, I don't.
I'd still give it to the next guy. I didn't prejudice for other people. That's like,
And why is it just cigarettes? You buy a single cigar.
yeah, you can buy a single cigar.
Yeah.
I don't know. Why is it just cigarettes?
I think it's 100% what you said, just like
The tax
taxation and
the tax stamp. Because, nobody's going to buy that.
What if you
many-
roll your own and sell them to friends?
Well, and they can't get you addicted if you can just buy one when the craving strikes.
Okay.
So if you have to buy 20 at a time, then they're laying around and you're like,
No,
"I'm
you're
gonna
more
smoke
likely to
another
smoke
one.
it.
More
All
likely
right.
to smoke them. I think that's true too. Yeah.
That's why they come in packs of 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
maybe it's because there's not room. I mean, I'm not saying this is a good reason, but I wonder if you Googled it, if this would be the reason, because there's not room for all the warnings on a one cigarette as there are on the whole box.
Well, they didn't always have those warnings on them. They used to be good for you.
One, the one cigar doesn't have a lot of space. Like a cigarillo doesn't have a lot of space for a warning either.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they come in a little packet usually.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they just sell cigarettes in one little
There you go.
packet like that, like a plastic?
Or just loose. If there's somebody out there that doesn't know cigarettes are bad for you,
Yeah, I know.
maybe they should like double smoke because they're taking up useful space.
I had one customer come in when I was working at the gas station, and this was right after they changed the name from you weren't able to call them ultralights anymore. So
I didn't know that.
Me either.
yeah, that's
why
they
are
went-
you not allowed to call them ultralights
I don't know
anymore?
because
Oh, okay.
because
'Cause they said so.
That makes it sound safer than it is.
Oh,
That's why it went from like red, gold, and silver to went to red, gold, and silver instead of regulars,
I didn't
lights, and
know that.
ultralights. But it came in and we asked for like the ultralights, so it came the silver pack. It's like, do you have anything lighter? It's like, yeah, you can just breathe.
yeah.
At that point, like, what are you doing?
Right.
I never knew that there was a name like that for them. I was just always like people would come and tell me a name of a cigarette. I'd be like, which one? Tell
Yeah,
me.
just
Like,
point to 'em.
Point to the color.
yeah, exactly.
I didn't know they changed it for because ultralight seems safer. It doesn't sound
a government thing.
safer. I don't know why anyone would think that sounds safer.
Because you get less tobacco and less nicotine.
It's
They
still
got more air
bad
holes
for
in
you.
there.
It's still bad.
But it's not as bad as a regular.
Okay.
You get less of the bad stuff
Slightly.
If
Yeah.
it is actually less bad, then why can't they call it that?
because it's still bad.
Yeah, it's still bad for you.
It's like voting for the lesser of two evils. Still evil, just less.
I still think they
They
should
don't
be
want to
allowed
make
to
the
call
lesser
it.
of two evils sound good. It's not good.
It doesn't sound good though. It doesn't sound like take your
Healthy
greens.
cigarettes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Take your greens. The name of a cigarette company.
Healthy, vegan, gluten-free, vegetarian cigarettes.
American Spirits.
Oh, that's what I smoke.
Okay. It's the closest thing to all naturals you're going to get.
Yeah, that's right. So, we have this story that Richie Rich brought in about California high school.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Which it's out of California, so it's already going to be like
Crazy town.
Yeah, total crazy town. But I think this time it's crazy in like the opposite direction that you would expect from California.
Really?
Yeah, I think California is usually pretty like everyone's special and everyone is great.
Okay.
So I think this time it's, the other.
California high school biology final includes racist questions and targets students.
What? Is it just this one school or is it like...
It's really just this one professor.
Oh, okay.
Or teacher, if they don't call him that in high school. A Luther Burbank high school freshman was surprised to read his full name included on a biology final. Not only that, but he was being ridiculed.
Getting bullied by the teacher.
That's so weird. I mean, that's terrible, but for some reason it's just funny because it's so absurd.
Yeah.
And like, again, how does the teacher think like, oh, this would be a great idea?
Yeah.
I'm going to call him out on the final.
Won't get in trouble for this, yeah.
In high school, there are individuals who are cross-eyed, like the name of a fellow student and the name of a student previously mentioned. This is the question, which is a dominant trait. We call those individuals weirdos.
Being cross-eyed? That's so mean.
This is the final question. So if you cross two weirdos, the two students named again, so the teacher's like naming them on this question, that are heterozygous for being cross-eyed, what is the offspring that would result?
He made it through the whole school year without doing anything like concerning. I find that hard to believe. That somebody who would think that this is A-okay to put on the final to like bully the students and point out all of their faults was just normal the whole year.
Yeah.
It could have been like so funny if it was just something lighthearted, but the fact that he's cross-eyed is really mean.
Yep.
Why would you call somebody a weirdo because they're cross-eyed? Like if you called someone a
put
weirdo
weirdos
for
in quotes, so like, what else are you gonna call them?
cross-eyed? I don't know. That's just so weird.
Many students in the class were targeted by first and last name on the exam. Teacher,
So it wasn't just this one guy. Okay.
right.
Okay.
The whole class.
The whole class.
That makes a little more sense, like as long as he's being mean to all of them equally. But if it was
okay.
just this one cross-eyed guy, I was like, that's so
No,
weird.
it was two cross-eyed kids. Like there's two cross-eyed
yeah.
kids in the same class.
I thought that too. Yeah, that's weird.
weird odds, yeah.
I don't think I don't even know if I know a cross-eyed person off the top of my head.
It's not mentioned in the article, but I bet they were seeing each other on the side. Many students in the class.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Many students in class were targeted by first and last name on the exam. Teacher Alex Wynn chose to describe these students by their ethnicities and physical features and then paired them up, posing questions about which traits a theoretical child of these two students would have.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. Call in, join the conversation.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. US President Joe Biden has urged America to unite as one nation following the attempted assassination of his political rival Donald Trump. President Biden said political violence went against American values.
There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or any violence for that matter. An assassination attempt is contrary to everything we stand for as a nation, everything. It's not who we are as a nation. It's not America. And we cannot allow this to happen. Unity is the most elusive goal of all, but nothing is important than that right now, unity. We'll debate and we'll disagree. That's not going to change, but we're going to not lose sight, in fact, who we are as Americans.
Donald Trump is attending the Republican convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the GOP is expected to officially nominate him as their presidential candidate. Meanwhile, the FBI has still not discovered a motive for the 20-year-old gunman's attack. Thomas Matthew Crooks was shot dead by a Secret Service sniper at a rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday afternoon. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
From the White House, Biden spoke not as a political candidate running for re-election, but as the commander and unifier-in-chief. Putting aside political differences, he said he was sincerely grateful that Donald Trump was doing well and recovering. He urged unity, saying America must now unite as one nation, and once again denounced political violence, saying it was contrary to everything that the US stands for. And while the FBI continues its investigation to find out the motives for the 20-year-old's attempted assassination of a former president, he said it was time for law enforcement to do their job and encouraged Americans not to make assumptions about the gunman, his motives, or his political affiliations. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Hamas insists it is continuing with ceasefire talks with Israel despite Saturday's attack on Gaza, which killed at least 90 Palestinians, according to the territory's health authorities. Sarah Coates has more from Tel Aviv.
Now, with fighting continuing right across the Strip, these very delicate, very fragile hostage and ceasefire talks once again hang in the balance. Now, we have heard from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the wake of this assassination attempt on one senior Hamas commander, leader Mohammed Deif. On Saturday, he came out to say that he's not absolutely certain that Deif was killed in Saturday's strike, adding that it's generated pressure on Hamas to soften its stance when it comes to negotiations.
Emergency officials have rescued 4 people after a section of a building collapsed in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. 2 people are critically injured.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Radio you control. Call in at 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash. Digital cash. With fees of less than a penny per transaction, Dash is made for spending. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges including the decentralized Maya protocol and in multi-crypto wallets. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and use Dash. You can learn more at dash.org. That's dash.org. Tonight in the studio, you have me, Lori.
Me, Bonnie.
And Richie Rich.
Okay, so we were talking about this story about the teacher bullying the students on their final exam.
I mean, we're judging that it's bullying. He was just saying truths about them on the final.
The thing about it is...
He called them weirdos, though. We don't know that they were weirdos.
He put it in quotes. You could use any term.
They could have been weirdos.
2 cross-eyed people coming together.
Yeah.
Doing
Weird.
a thing. And
if they did, maybe the odds would be that their babies would come out with straight eyes. Like they would cancel each other out.
The one's crossed one way and the other's crossed the other direction.
Yeah, and then they just straight.
Or the opposite.
Both
then
eyes.
they're like fish eyes.
Yeah.
I just think it's like
Use
something
your peripherals.
that if you and the kid have this relationship and it's totally fine, that's one thing. But they could also just be like, hey, I want some money. See that and take this to court. You know, like you just should be smarter than this.
Maybe
as a
he's
teacher.
the cool teacher and everyone's cool with it except this one weird kid.
Yeah, it
Maybe.
probably
You
is
don't
the
know.
case, but
Or maybe
it wasn't
they're
very
just-
careful.
Maybe they're just like terrible kids, and he finally had enough and was like, you know what? That's
This is my
it.
payback.
That's it.
Yeah, maybe he just doesn't care if he loses his job
I'm
because
just gonna burn these kids for their final.
if the idea was to not lose your job, he did a bad job.
He's got his pension, his 1 year from retirement. He's like, I'm going to burn it. Where was I? On one question, the teacher wrote a disclaimer saying, in no way do I promote students being sexually active. But the students' parents and other teachers at school said that the implication of any sexual relationship between students is inappropriate.
I can kind of see that too. If I went to the test and there was some gross weirdo and they were like, so Bonnie Freeman and, well, I guess that wouldn't be my name, whatever. And then like, insert weirdo, both
Nobody.
have blue eyes, and they have a baby. What are the, I would be like, ew, like embarrassed because I'd be, first of all, in high school.
Right.
It'd be less bad now, but I would not be happy if that happened to me in high school. I'd be actually really pissed.
Yeah, well, high school kids are like not the most mature people because they're high school kids.
They probably also had a sex ed class where they
I
covered all
assume.
this.
Yeah, but
I
not
see.
about themselves. It's not like,
It's meant to be about themselves.
Yeah.
They're supposed to internalize the information and take appropriate actions as a mature adult.
I don't know. Maybe they didn't have sex ed there.
All right.
I don't know.
I don't know enough about the school scene.
Yeah,
they probably do
you
in
could
California.
be right, but it's California, not Texas.
It's true.
The student whose parents requested the Sacramento Bee not name him is half black and half Mexican. He shrugged off the question where he was disparaged, but another question shocked him for its racist overtones against African American students at Luther Burbank. I just remembered this one. The question starts by discussing the high school's diversity and noting that so-called African Americans have traits that have infiltrated students of other races.
Infiltrated.
For some reason, the African American culture has influenced most of the student body. How? In African Americans, they have a gene for the pimp walk.
Oh my gosh.
You know when you see like little black babies learn how to walk at first, they're totally pimp walking.
Oh my
I've seen that.
god.
Which is dominant. What is the result if you cross the student name homozygous dominant Latina with homozygous recessive Hmong-like student name? The question goes on to refer to the dominant trait as walking with a limp and the recessive trait as normal.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe he was like, oh, I'm the cool teacher and I'm gonna try to
We
like
talk about the pimp walk
yeah,
on my
I'm
final
like,
exam.
Yeah, like troll the kids.
I see
and they're
you in
gonna-
the hallway.
They're gonna think it's so funny.
He actually does seem funny, but I just think this is such a dumb idea unless he
It's
doesn't care
terrible.
if he gets fired.
Terrible idea.
Around 10 minutes into the 2-hour exam period, the student said the principal, Jim Peterson, arrived in the classroom. had a private conversation. Doc, how did the principal find out so quickly? Were they like,
I know, were they like texting him?
texting their parents? You're not going to believe what's on the final.
Maybe.
Cheating. They were cheating. Had a private conversation with Wynn and collected finals. After the principal left, Wynn continued with the same exam, but put the questions on a projector and had the class write their answers on their own sheets of paper.
No one's gonna stop him. No
Wow.
one's stopping him from burning
Just wait
these
till you get to
kids.
the extra credit question.
I'm gonna Google where Burbank, California is, because like I would have thought that would be a really liberal place. Is that what they say? Burbank, California? Wait, no, isn't that in Los Angeles?
Yeah, it's my general. Luther Burbank High School.
Oh, okay.
If
I'm
you
gonna
wanna
Google where this
Google
is.
where that is. The next day, the last day of school, the student noticed that there was a sub for Wynn's
Oh.
class.
Shocking.
He also found out that
Oh.
he had received a 0 on the test, which earned him a D in the class overall. This was an atypical score for the student, who always made the honor roll the previous semester and always seek to help his GDP up so he can remain competitive for college sports.
Wait,
Now I'm
why
really
did he
thinking
get
that
zero?
maybe he just hated these students. Like if he just gave them zeros.
Why did he just give them 0?
He probably hated them.
Because they weren't doing the test.
Oh, they didn't do it. Okay. Well, yeah.
And they had to write it on the sheet of paper and I don't know, maybe he earned a D.
I think they still did it, and he just like
On
scored
their
them a
own sheet of
zero.
paper?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is in Sacramento.
Okay.
Surprised by that. Like Sacramento proper too.
His parents, Adriana and Sean Allen, well, now it's easy to dox them because they had their names out there, have been in contact with the school about contesting the grade, but in the meantime opted for him to enroll in summer school to make up for the grade. They did not want to risk the possibility of a D sticking on the son's transcript, which would prevent him from being college eligible and playing baseball at one of his dream schools.
Ew. That seems kind of gross. Like, you can't have a D on your transcript because of something someone else did, so now you're going to be punished with summer school. Like, that whole thing seems yucky.
Unless he just was like, hey, I'm offended by a question, so I'm not answering the test. That's another dumb idea.
I mean, at the same time, when you get to college sports, you're competing with other smart people. So you may not get there with the D just because everyone else is above that and good at baseball.
Yeah. It's just yucky.
Okay. Despite being targeted on Wynn's exam, the Allen son said he doesn't want to see Wynn be fired. However, he would like to see accountability in the form of an apology to the students of Luther Burbank at large, especially because the questions on the test targeted non-white students who make up 97% of the student population. I'd want him to apologize to Burbank as a whole because the majority of our kids, the student said, so for him to say those things, it's pretty messed up. Further trouble with the teacher. Luther Burbank students have 2 exam periods per day during finals week. According to district spokesperson, 3 classes were given the exam before Peterson was made aware of it on June 12th. He pulled the test from students at the beginning of the following period. Okay, so that's why he was 10 minutes late, because he was probably notified from the earlier exam. Mm-hmm. He pulled the test from students at the beginning of the following period, the class which included the Allen son. District spokesperson Al Goldberg said the administration was not aware that the test was administered via projector after Peterson pulled the papers from students, and that they will be investigating.
So, I mean, what did the school think was going to happen? They just came in and took the tests away from the students and were like, you can't have these, and left, but the kids still got to take a final or they're going to get a 0.
Well, I mean, how do I want to put this? There's a certain level of intellect that you have to presume a high school teacher has. And if your boss comes in and takes a thing away, right, mm-hmm. the common sense understanding is that you are not to proceed.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, the boss has to be pretty stupid to think the guy who made this test is going to be smart enough to be like, I'm not going to proceed.
Okay. I mean, they hired him.
It just seems like they didn't have a good conversation, like a clear conversation with each other.
Sometimes a look is enough. He walks in after 2 tests have already been given, he walks in, snatches up all the papers, gives Wynn a look, and then leaves. And Wynn goes like, I don't know what that's about. I'm going to put this up on the projector.
Well, yeah, he must be an idiot to make this test in the first place.
Okay. Yeah.
They should not have trusted that he wasn't going to continue to make bad decisions.
The thing about it is, like, is it really messed up to be joking that the black kids at the school walk with a limp when it's just an observation and he's making fun of them for doing something, like, objectively dumb? Like, it's not like he's saying black kids are dumb, black kids are poor, anything that's actually messed up.
Depends if it's a choice to do the pimp walk or if it's a dominant trait genetically.
I don't think
you're
it is.
predisposed to do it.
Eyes.
I think that's why it's so, like, he put it there because it's a joke.
It with being cross-eyed.
That one is messed up.
But that one you can't control.
Right.
But
I
I'm
can
talking
totally
about
not walk with a pimp walk, and I don't think it has anything to do with myself being white.
But the kid, Alan, specifically said, like, especially since lots of our kids are black, it's a messed up thing to say. Like, that's not really that messed up. It's just an observation.
You really think he observed 97% of the students walking through the hallways with a pimp walk?
I think he was being
or maybe it was
exaggerating
a couple of the cool kids.
To be a joke. Okay. And it's just not cool.
Like, these teachers,
the black kids clearly love that big Latina booty. So what happens if those two hooked up?
It's a stupid decision. Like, these teachers are not their friends. They're not their classmates.
Right.
They're supposed to be, educational professionals. To do something like that is a stupid decision, which means he's not a very smart person and shouldn't be teaching anyone anything.
Well, most teachers are just not smart.
Well,
I would also want to know how old Wynn is, right?
Me too.
I've had high school teachers when I was in high school that had just graduated from college and got their teaching certificate, right? Like they were, in some cases 5 years our senior,
right?
And somehow an authority figure over everyone at the school. Like,
Yeah, I remember some of those.
Yeah. Meh. Were they that much more mature? No, they were at a frat party like 2 months ago.
Yeah, no,
right?
not that they're more mature, but like they're at their job. They're supposed to have some kind of decorum.
What presumably could be his first job ever if he like didn't have a high school job and just went to school.
Maybe last in that profession.
Yeah. Goldberg said that due to the test being pulled, there were challenges with the grading process, which the district staff is working to correct. We will evaluate exams of the students who received the test, and our academic department will contact students whose final grade has been impacted. The Allens have not yet heard from administrators about their son's test. Wynn, who has been a biology teacher at Luther Burbank for at least 10 years. Okay.
10 years. Wow.
10 years. There you go.
So yeah, he had it.
Mid-30s, midlife crisis.
I'm going to say he just had it.
Okay.
He was done with these terrible children.
Probably.
And he's like, I'm out.
They've been mispronouncing his name every year, year after year.
Mr.
Is it the Nugan?
Yeah. At least 10 years, was put on administrative leave, according to Goldberg, beginning June 13th, the last day of school. An investigation into his conduct is still underway.
I'm sorry, their school year is way too deep into June. Mine was never past June 6th was the latest I was ever in school.
Okay.
That's terrible.
I think I graduated end of May from high school.
Yeah, I graduated end of May from high school too. But 1 year in a school in Texas, it was June 6th, and that was the latest. That was the only year I've ever been in school on my birthday.
And freshman year of high school, my elementary school that I went to before that was year-round school. So I literally had like a week of vacation, and then I had to go to summer school to get into high school.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't remember when our school vacation started as a kid. Like, I did not care.
And
so
summer school was only like a month.
I did not retain that information. I was just like, I'm not there anymore.
I don't think I would have remembered, except that the one long year was my birthday.
Mm.
And I remember because I did not get a summer vacation that year. Just right
That's
into it.
Bogus.
Yeah. Peterson emailed Wynn has not responded to the Bee's request for comment. Peterson emailed the parents of the children affected by the test, according to Goldberg. The Allens said Peterson called them and personally apologized for what happened. They hadn't seen the test until a Bee reporter shared pictures with them. When the Allen son first...
What's a Bee reporter?
This is the Sacramento Bee.
Oh, okay.
When the Allen son first told his mom about the final, she thought, no way would a teacher do that. But when she saw the question in which Wynn disparaged her son, she was offended on his behalf.
Wait, which one was her son?
The cross-eyed weirdo.
Oh, okay. The cross-eyed weirdo kid, that one.
Because she thinks the comment was related to a learning disability he has.
Wait, so he isn't cross-eyed?
How would that even be? Cross-eyed and learning disability are not the same thing.
He might also have a learning disability.
Well, now I'm starting to think he's not cross-eyed and it was a joke.
Okay.
Because if he was just cross-eyed, she wouldn't say, hey, I think this is because... No, she would say, like, it's messed up. He made fun of his cross-eye.
Or maybe she's just, like, overly sensitive and thinks that he's making fun of him for having a learning disability, and that's why he's called him a weirdo.
Well, he better be good at baseball then.
I'm just starting to think that he doesn't have a cross eye, and it's not even messed up at this point.
I want to see this kid.
If it was just a joke, like a weird and not smart joke for a teacher to make, then it's a lot less offensive than if he actually had a cross eye and he's all like, oh man, I'm embarrassed about that, and you put it on the test.
Let's also not forget, the article listed like 2 examples, but this was, he made fun of all the students across the test.
I want to see all of them.
Okay. Find a picture. This wasn't the first time the Allens had problems with Wynn. Throughout the year, Adriana Allen said she struggled to get in contact with him about her son's 504 plan, which guarantees him specific accommodations, such as being able to redo assignments. She finally had to reach out to a resource specialist teacher to ensure her son's disabilities were being accommodated.
Isn't this the kid that's on the honor roll?
Yeah.
So does he just get to redo his assignments anytime he gets a bad grade?
How do you think he stays on the honor roll?
Oh.
The Allen son...
The story just gets worse and worse.
Just remember, like, I don't know what the statistic is, but a lot of high school graduates out of public school functionally illiterate.
This teacher does look very young.
That's because he's Asian.
Yeah, I was just going to say
Once he hits 40 or 50, it's exponential from there.
Oh,
yeah, they hit a certain age and
really
then, they wake up the next day old.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Allen son also had trouble communicating with Wynn about missed classes due to sports. He played on the varsity baseball and freshman basketball teams and said Wynn reacted with animosity and sarcastic comments when he was told about these excused absences. He believes that this conflict is one of the reasons he was named on the test. He noted that the other students targeted were ones Wins commonly had problems with.
Aha.
Right. It's because they were crappy little brats.
Done with these kids.
Another question targeted 2 students who got in trouble for sleeping in class. Oh, that would have been me. Again, asking students to speculate about what would happen if these students were to have children. They would not sleep through the night. Karma's a... Here's the wonderful school of LBHS. We have certain students who love to sleep in class. I see students fall asleep during exams. Can you believe that? I don't like it when the student sleeps in class. It's rude. So wake the up. Well, through much study, I've concluded that the gene for falling asleep is dominant. Not only that, some students sleep, they snore in class. This too is a dominant trait. What are your possible offspring if you cross homozygous sleeping, heterozygous snoring students, student name, with homozygous attentive non-snoring student name, student? When I saw that, I was like, so it's not like you're joking about it. You're being serious about it because that's what they really do, the Allen son said. That's how I knew he was not playing around.
So these parents are like, my kid is a little turd, and this teacher called them all out for being little turds and was being a turd back to them. And now I'm mad.
Well, that's how like most people act with their kids. And anytime like I don't have kids, but I've seen so many things with having siblings that are 13 and 16 years younger than me, each of them. And like anytime there was like a fight among 2 little kids, my mom had to talk to their parents. No, they didn't. I bet they didn't even hit your daughter. Like people are crazy about their kids. It's so stupid.
That's
like,
how you raise terrible humans.
Right.
By making them never accountable and like everybody else is the wrong one and you're a perfect little angel.
Yep.
Having not been the perfect little angel, I had bad teachers, and I was always very upset when my dad took their side over mine when they were clearly picking on me. Like following the rules, finding the loopholes as I'm known to do, right? But following the rules, like I didn't do what you said not to do. I did what you said, what you didn't say I couldn't do. Right? And like, oh no, you're in trouble now, boy. Like, whatever.
Okay, one other side of it is just that sometimes teachers are just mean to kids. Like we were talking about it yesterday. Like the teacher that was like, does anyone else have the answer? We know you have the answer, Bonnie. Just like silly little like things like that don't seem like that big of a deal to a parent can be really serious to a kid.
Little Miss Know-It-All.
And it's like, I think that teachers shouldn't have so much power against. I mean, like that's the thing. People are being raised by someone other than their own parent, and it's dumb. It's just so dumb. But all these
it's a terrible
parents,
idea.
Yep.
To outsource your parenting to a bunch of people who don't have the same morals that you do. Like you're going to end up with kids that don't.
And compelled by the state. Let's not forget that.
Compelled by the state, yeah. And your kids don't learn the things that you want them to learn.
So was your full year around school, was that public school?
Nope, private school.
Oh, okay.
I had bad teachers too, a bunch of them. I just didn't like, I was a bad kid like you. You said you were a bad kid sometimes. I was also a bad kid, but only to the bad teachers. Like I was a great student with the good teachers. I would go to class and I got good grades and like I was never rude to them or anything. But like the bad teachers, I was just like, I'm not doing this. I'm not coming to your class. Like I would just.
I was covered because I was smart.
I was always an extremely good kid, didn't want to get in trouble, wanted the teacher to like me, especially like elementary school. And whenever I got punished for like everyone, that was so much worse because it's like, I didn't do anything and now I'm not allowed, like everyone is being told to be quiet for an hour or whatever because some other kids were being bad and now I'm being punished too. That was like one of the stupidest things about public school and its military tactics. That's what they do in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see, one teacher tried to do that in high school. And so before going to detention after school, me and a couple of my friends like went to the principal's office and said, hey, we're getting detention for something we didn't do. He can't prove we did it. He's holding the whole class hostage. We've got other things to do. Fix this.
Yep.
And the vice principal had a talk with the teacher and exempted us from detention.
Sometimes, yeah, we had a decent principal at our high school. Like they built a new high school and the second high school had a good principal. The first one had a terrible principal, but one of my teachers was my homeroom teacher when we were supposed to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I decided I wasn't going to do it. And so I just sat at my desk quietly, and she like threw a fit, like spitting, yelling. You know, when someone gets like red in the face and they start spitting, like yelling at you. She was doing that, and she's like, "You're going to stand up. It's so disrespectful." And I was like, "I'm not going to. I'm just going to sit here quietly." And she sent me to the principal's office. And then so we sat down and had a talk, and then he had a talk with her, and I never got forced to do it or yelled at for not doing it again. So sometimes you get like somebody who works there who has some common sense to not be a dictator.
It might not even be common sense. It might be that she or the principal knows that they like legally can't do that.
I don't think that stops a lot of teachers from doing things anyway.
I mean, there's they think they have the power generally, and most people don't push back because hey, you're kids,
right?
And then you get terrible kids like me that push back all the time, and just try to make it as miserable for them as they are for you. Work on it. Sean Allen is proud that his son was mature enough to shrug off being insulted, but said that it was troubling that a teacher felt it was appropriate to say that about any student in such a public way. He was concerned about how these types of comments could affect other students who are struggling with mental health issues, bullying, or problems at home, and how a teacher targeting a student could open up the door for kids to bully that student too. Maybe I'm upset with you and I know I can't verbally say what I want to say, so I'm going to take it out in another way. That's what he did. He said, so I'm just going to put it in a final and it's going to spread. So now your peers will look at you and they're going to be saying, oh, you're the weirdo.
But it's the last day of school, so.
Yeah, but you got to come back next year. He's only a freshman. And students are already being bullied by other kids. So to be bullied by a teacher when that's who's supposed to protect you from a bully, that's big, his wife added. Uh-oh.
I think it's like there's a delicate balance because I do think these people sound like snowflakes, but I also agree that why would you send your kids to school? I mean, like, you shouldn't be sending your kids to school to be bullied by adults.
Right. That's true.
Well, but you don't send them to be bullied by the students either.
Right. To be bullied by anyone.
But the adults are the prison guards, right? Like, everyone's forced to be there, generally against their will, especially if it's public school.
I never got really bullied. Like, anytime someone had something bad to say about me, it was like ridiculous and like I would address it. So if a teacher was bullying me, I think that it would be worse, but I can't think of an instance of actually getting bullied, so I don't know.
Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. Call in, join the conversation. More coming up.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash instead with some handy websites. BitRefill.com has been accepting Dash for years and has a ton of big-name retailers and brands including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards. Plus, many of their gift cards are available at a discount. But what about paying your bills? Spritz.finance can do that, and they can send dollars to your bank account in case you still need those for some reason. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at Dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit Dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. 0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. US President Joe Biden has urged America to unite as one nation following the attempted assassination of his political rival Donald Trump. President Biden said political violence went against American values.
There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or any violence for that matter. An assassination attempt is contrary to everything we stand for as a nation, everything. It's not who we are as a nation. It's not America. And we cannot allow this to happen. Unity is the most elusive goal of all, but nothing is important than that right now, unity. We'll debate and we'll disagree. That's not going to change, but we're going to not lose sight, in fact, who we are as Americans.
President Biden also paid tribute to the spectator who was shot dead by the gunman.
Last night, I spoke with Donald Trump. I'm sincerely grateful that he's doing well and recovering, and we had a short but good conversation. Jill and I are keeping him and his family in our prayers. We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victim who was killed. He was a father. He was protecting his family from the bullets that were being fired, and he lost his life. God love him.
Donald Trump is attending the Republican convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the GOP is expected to officially nominate him as their presidential candidate. Meanwhile, the FBI has still not discovered a motive for the 20-year-old gunman's attack. Thomas Matthew Crooks was shot dead by a Secret Service sniper at a rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday afternoon. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
From the White House, Biden spoke not as a political candidate running for re-election, but as the commander and unifier-in-chief. Putting aside political differences, he said he was sincerely grateful that Donald Trump was doing well and recovering. He urged unity, saying America must now unite as one nation, and once again denounce political violence, saying it was contrary to everything that the US stands for. And while the FBI continues its investigation to find out the motives for the 20-year-old's attempted assassination of a former president, he said it was time for law enforcement to do their job and encouraged Americans not to make assumptions about the gunman, his motives, or his political affiliations. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Hamas insists it is continuing with ceasefire talks with Israel despite Saturday's attack on Gaza, which killed at least 90 Palestinians, according to the territory's health authorities. Sarah Coates has more from Tel Aviv.
Now, with fighting continuing right across the Strip, these very delicate, very fragile hostage and ceasefire talks once again hang in the balance amid conflicting reports from Hamas officials on whether the group will move forward on these talks or whether it will pull out. Now, we have heard from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the wake of this assassination attempt on one senior Hamas commander, leader Mohammed Deif. On Saturday, he came out to say that he's not absolutely certain that Deif was killed in Saturday's strike, adding that it's generated pressure on Hamas to soften its stance when it comes to negotiations.
Emergency officials have rescued 4 people after a section of a building collapsed in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. 2 people are critically injured and receiving medical attention in hospital. Tessem Akende reports.
The 2-story building was formerly a hotel but modified into a residential apartment. Authorities at the Department of Development Control in Abuja say substandard materials were used in its construction. Building collapses are common in Nigeria. On Friday, a school building collapsed in Jos in the country's northern region, killing 22 people. The government says it will ensure more routine checks on buildings to ensure developers adhere to the country's building code and avoid use of substandard materials to prevent more collapses. Tassum Akende, Jos.
The main headlines again. US President Joe Biden has urged America to unite as one nation following the attempted assassination of his political rival Donald Trump. Hamas insists it is continuing with ceasefire talks with Israel, despite Saturday's attack on Gaza, which killed at least 90 Palestinians, according to the territory's health authorities. And emergency officials have rescued 4 people after a section of a building collapsed in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. And that is the latest from Feature Story News. I'm Jagrati Dave in Washington.
We've made significant progress wiring the nation's schools for the internet, but we have to do more. Every child in America should have an internet-capable computer in their bedroom at home, preferably with a high-resolution webcam. I have been to children's chat rooms and have been shocked and disappointed to find they are frequently empty. Even when these youngsters do manage to find their way online, they lack the skills to do something as simple as pinpoint their location on Google Maps. I long for the day when someone can log onto the Nickelodeon Under 13 chat room and type, "Hey, any kids in here like to play Pokemon Mystery Dungeon? I have a Nintendo at my house," and be overwhelmed with instant messages. Then I'll know we're doing our job supporting technology in this country.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. Call 603-283-6160. Call about anything you want to talk about. Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny Liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. Tonight in the studio, you have me, Lori.
Me, Bonnie.
And Richie Rich.
And so this story that you were reading about the kids being bullied by their teacher, what I take away from this story is a couple things. One, don't send your kids to public schools. But that's always what I take away from any story about any type of public school.
That should just be general information.
Yep, general information. And 2, kids are given special accommodations. So when your lawyer or your doctor, whoever graduated at the top of their class and, got honor roll, you can't actually trust that they know anything because they had a learning disability, and so they were allowed to take their tests over and over again until they got the score they wanted.
Well, I mean, it's a joke, but you know what they call the person who finishes last in med school, right?
A doctor.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Right. In my school in Utah, it wasn't even like, oh, the kids were learning. We all worked on tests in groups because they just had, I don't even know what was going on there. There was just no oversight. The teacher was like, oh, you guys didn't pay attention the whole time. Work in groups. So I got all the answers for half the kids.
We've got to get you guys to pass so that we can move you out of here on to the next grade, simply to move you on to the next grade, not because you learned anything.
Yep.
And I just learned about untimed testing, so you can just sit there all day to take the test.
I mean, there's the ways schools have done it, right? And then there's, I want to say, a change in technology. So when I got to college, I had a professor who was good, and he taught, what was it? It was a marketing class, but it was surveys, taking surveys and statistics and marketing or whatever. And for the exam, he put all the formulas on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And he went, here's all the formulas I think you need. If there's a formula you think you need that you don't see on the board, let me know, and I'll put that one on the board for you. Right? Because when you get into the real world, it's not about memorizing the information.
Yeah, it's
great.
great.
About finding the information. So who cares if you can memorize, whatever it is, if you're good with looking it up and researching? Nowadays.
I guess that's true for most things, except
right?
for, if you're a doctor who's doing surgery on people, you can't just Google in the middle of the procedure.
You can't do it in the middle of the procedure, but if you're looking up certain diseases or whatever, they're going to have a database.
And actually,
cross-reference things.
The primary healthcare person in Keene that takes cryptocurrency, she doesn't take insurance. I actually really liked that while I was seeing her, she would be like looking things up, like, oh yeah, you know what? I've heard about this, and like I wonder if like other people are saying that. And she was like Googling things, and she was like, yeah, it looks like it sounds bad, but I think that is better than a doctor that's like, I learned everything I need to know 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
They should keep up on things, but I can Google my own.
Yeah, you could.
Things I do.
And the only problem with that is you still got to go
anymore.
to a doctor to get a prescription sometimes.
Yeah, right. If I absolutely cannot fix it myself, will I go?
I just haven't been sick in so long. I stopped paying for them just because simply like I just don't need to go. And I also heard this idea. I guess it's like statistically proven that the more you go to the doctor, the more sick you are.
Maybe.
And I think it's because people are like, "What is this?" And they go and they get told that it's blah blah blah.
Hypochondriacs.
Right.
It's always something.
Like
hysteria.
So I just don't. I don't have a lot of faith in the medical system anyway. Like when I almost died a few months ago, I went to the doctor and I was like telling her all of my stuff, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that I'm, extremely low on iron and probably from blood loss.
Oh.
And she was like, oh, okay, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Let's run some tests. And I was like, should I just like take iron? And she was like, you can, I guess, if you want to.
I think that was your mistake right there.
And then she called, I did it anyway. And then she called me like the next day and was like, so do you want to go and get a blood transfusion at the hospital? Because and I was like, no, I'm just going to keep taking iron.
I'd be so scared to get a blood transfusion right now
absolutely
because
not.
So many people got the freaking vaccine.
I just don't like, there's beyond that. There's so many bad things that can happen. And like, I'm O negative and doctors and nurses are just people. And like the last thing I want is for them to mess up and give me O positive blood. And then I have some terrible reaction. So
I don't go to the doctors frequently because I'm not medically covered for most things. But like, I don't go in there arguing with them. I go like, what do you want to know? And then you figure it out. Your job is to figure it out. That's why I'm paying you.
They don't, though.
Well, but that's their job. You can do what you want afterwards, but if you want them to look at you and run the test.
Sometimes I think you have to argue with them a bit. Like one time, okay, I don't want to get into the details because it's just like a little bit embarrassing, but I had something happen to me in, let's say, 2015. And then I was pretty sure that thing was happening to me again in 2020. Went to a emergency doctor. I told him like, I'm pretty sure this is what's happening to me.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, it's not that. It's
That's
this.
what I'm saying.
Then I got given medicine and 2 days went on and I was like in incredible pain. I had to go back and I was like, listen, no, I'm serious. It's not what you think. It's what I think. And then he like took a, image and he was like, oh, you're totally right. And
yeah,
I was suffering for 2 days for no reason.
And my suggestion is if you hadn't said that in the beginning, he might have diagnosed you correctly the first time. But because they're the experts, if you come in with a theory, they're going to immediately be adversarial to your theory because they think you just Googled it on the internet. And
That's
then
all they did too, though.
And then it gets dismissed. But it gets dismissed. Right? They go like, well, it's obviously not that because that's just what you looked up. And then they're not going to look for it. Right? But if you go in there like, you tell me, right? Like you might have it in your mind what you want to tell them. And then, they'll either figure it out or not. And then you could say like, hey, what about this? Can we also run tests for this?
That's a terrible like personality trait. And I think you're absolutely right.
It's a human trait.
Most doctors are that way. Just being like, I don't want to admit that that's the case because then you don't need me. It's terrible.
That's what I'm saying. Just withhold the information until they espouse their theory. Right. And then say, hey,
say, hey, you're so smart. Oh my God.
That's a great thing. Can we also test for this? Right. I'm not saying you're wrong. But can we also?
It's absurd though. Like they're not paying for your tests. I should be able to just go in and be like, I want this test and this test and this test, and then they just give it to you.
But this is theory and practice, right? This is in the ideal world, the doctors would listen to you and just give you the medicine you want. But that's not the world we live in.
You can also just go online and get a bunch of tests.
Yeah. Now you can go to like Quest and you can just be like, I'm going to pay you this money and you're going to run all these tests I want. And they're going to be like, sounds good.
And you're paying for
them.
it.
A lot of time it's cheaper.
It is way cheaper to go through like those diagnostic centers than to go to your doctor because you don't have to pay for the doctor.
And like Amazon does it now too. So you can,
Amazon does it?
I think so. They've got the Amazon Pharmacy and they've got the Amazon like telehealth or whatever it is. So
Wow. Didn't even know
if you're
about
a Prime
that.
subscriber.
I didn't know that either. Telehealth is great.
Okay.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I have used that since the whole COVID business.
Sure.
I've used telehealth. And it's so much better to just be like, I know what's wrong with me and I know what I need because I'm not an idiot. So here's what's going on and here's what's wrong and here's what I need. And they're like, sounds good. Here's your prescription and you're on your way. You didn't have to go see a doctor. You didn't have to wait in a waiting room with people coughing in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Like none
Leave
of
your
that.
house. You don't have to leave your house.
Yeah.
For a freaking conversation. That's all it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if you do have to leave your house and you go to the doctor, right, don't tell them what you think first. Let them speak first, and you're more likely to get a better result.
Probably is good advice.
Yeah, I guess.
Because they're the authority. You don't want to undermine that up front.
Well, I don't believe in authority.
That's fine. Then do your telehealth thing. This is for people who go to the doctor.
All right.
Right? They already got, is my medical degree better than your Google search? Or is your Google search better than my medical? Maybe. But you don't tell them that, especially up front. Tell them that after the fact.
I guess.
Hey, doc, you got it wrong. What are we going to do about this?
So, they don't admit that they are wrong either. Like, they won't come straight out and admit it.
The test was inconclusive.
Bonnie said that hers admitted it, but like so when I was 25, I had brain surgery, and it took a year to get a diagnosis of brain surgery because the doctor was running all these tests that didn't make any sense, and I kept coming back and I still have this problem, and he's telling me it's anxiety,
Is it a male doctor?
Fine. It was a male doctor.
Okay.
It's like there's nothing's actually wrong with you. You're totally fine. But I kept going back and being annoying. And
That's also a thing. Male doctors misdiagnose female patients all the time.
Yeah, they don't believe that you have pain.
Right.
They think that you don't have pain.
Just a woman being a woman.
Yeah. And so finally he figured out what it was, and he never it took a year, and I'm all messed up now with nerve damage and stuff, and he never came out and said, oh, I should have probably done that test in the beginning and I'm sorry or anything like that.
I didn't mean to imply that my doctor said, oh, you were right and I was wrong and I'm sorry or anything like that.
Oh.
It was just he was like, oh, yep, I see the blah, blah, blah now.
Oh, yeah, okay. See, yeah.
Let's take care of that.
I concur.
They won't ever admit that they didn't have the answer, which is a bad personality trait. We do have a call. Midvale, Utah. I feel like I know who it is already.
I'm pretty sure.
Take it anyway.
Hi, on screen caller.
It's your boy.
Of course it is. What do you want?
ANCAP Determinator. Today's your judgment day.
What do you want to talk about?
Doctors can make decisions for you because value is objective, Rich. You know that, right? But beside that, I've just made.
No, you can't get past that one.
Economic discovery.
You brought it up. Now I get to rebut.
He never wants that.
Not yet.
Value is subjective.
Wait, hold on.
Utility
No,
may be
not.
objective, and I'm not even convinced that's 100% true.
Oh, are you still stupid enough to think that they're not the same thing?
No, because they're different.
Are you still contending that?
No, because
guess
because they're
what?
different.
Remember Menger's book or whatever you call it?
Yeah, Principles of
I Googled
Economics. I thought you'd
Googled
already
it.
read it.
This book or whatever you call it?
No, I don't read crap like that.
You said you
I
did.
just read No, I didn't. I never said I read it. I know. I just know his contributions.
Okay.
I don't need. You don't need to read special books like that. You can look at a textbook, and it'll kind of go over the history of Silicon Valley. Yeah, but it's worthless. Look. Even the Wikipedia. Let me read this excerpt from Wikipedia of that book, Principles of Economics, by Menger. Marginal utility as the source of value meant that the perceived need for an object was seen to be dictating the value, or an individual rather than a general level. This implication was that the individual mind is the source of economic value. Menger accepted the marginal utility theory.
Wait, that means it's subjective.
Okay.
If each individual's mind is...
Yes.
Nobody's wrong. They're
okay.
all wrong.
I thought, okay.
You were reading it to point out that it was wrong?
Okay.
No, I'm pointing out to Rich that even Menger thought utility was value, but this theory is wrong.
It's not value, though. That's what I'm saying.
What's that?
I'm suggesting it's not value. It's two different things.
What didn't you understand about that excerpt? Okay, let me read it again. Marginal utility
No, I heard
as
it.
a source of value.
That doesn't mean I have to agree with it.
As the source of... It's from your boy. How can you deny you the grandfather of your boys?
It's so silly.
Because I'm the intellectual evolution of Menger, Mises, Rothbard, and Hoppe.
It's so silly to think you have to pick someone from history's opinions and just like agree with everything they wrote down.
You can't have your own opinions or thoughts about anything. You use your own critical thinking skills.
Like things have utility, and that doesn't determine value.
No, but yeah, this is where you're confused.
I'm not
I
confused.
Agree that. Yeah, you are confused because
there are two different words with two different meanings.
Yeah, no, utility has a lot of different alternative meanings. That's where you go wrong.
I'm going to say usefulness.
So, so you agree usefulness is objective, right? Right?
Usefulness can be objective with certain things, right? Like a hammer is objectively useful in pounding a nail.
But it's not objective.
But in absence of a hammer, you know what else pounds a nail? Screwdriver. Right?
Rock.
Yeah, but one objectively does the job. Any well-defined strategy, any well-defined task you're doing, all the values for any tool.
But if a hammer cost $1,000, if a hammer cost $1,000, I'm not going to value the hammer when looking to pound the rock or pound the nail. I will grab the rock.
You don't need to inject price theory or exchange theory and value theory. Right, value theory underlies all of those. You don't need to complicate
No, that's how we determine value. That's how individuals determine value.
But Skeeter,
if subjective value,
if different things can change the value of an object to somebody, that means it's subjective.
The utility is still the same. The value is different.
I didn't hear that.
Right. So if different scenarios can change the value to someone, then that means it's subjective. That's what it means. Because in this scenario, he would value it this much. In this scenario, he would value a hammer less.
Let me show you some counterexamples.
A Porsche and a Toyota both get me from point A to point B. That's their utility.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, but there's one that will fulfill a well-defined goal more objectively better. Like if you're trying to do with the least amount of gas mileage, or you want to get there in the fastest way possible.
Yeah.
All of that is objective. So the answers are all objective.
And price
right?
and price being price not being a consideration, I would take the Porsche or the Ferrari.
What about a Barbie doll? I was talking to this gay guy online today who collects Barbie dolls, and there's no like objective value for a Barbie doll for a grown gay man.
There is. So so here's where my ultimate theory comes into play. All values derive from evolution's goal. Right. That's
no.
I don't know if I want to get into it. Yeah. So let me. You can proxy this with just production and profit, right? But I don't want to get into
How can you tell me that a Barbie doll, which does the same thing to a little girl and to a grown gay man and then to a straight man, it all is the same thing? It's a doll. It's meant to look pretty and be played with. But
I don't think the little girl, the straight man's ever had it up his butt, though.
So here's a good proxy on real value. All the value of a good or a strategy on employing that good relates to how it increases productivity for society. That's where value is approximately derived, right? I don't want to get into the evolutionary.
I called in about this thing, but I don't want to get into it.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to talk about you, Bonnie. I just discovered a new economic theory. It's called the bonbon fallacy. It's the false belief that war is not a classical example of the broken window fallacy.
This is what I'm saying. I have to say something because you said something. No, I have to say something because you said something to me, and it involves something we said yesterday. So I have to catch everybody up. So a long time ago, I said that, of course, like these evil people in power want war because it enriches them. And he was like, that's the broken window fallacy because war does not enrich countries. It like puts them in poverty. And I was like, you're totally right for the average person, but for like the stockholders of Raytheon, it enriches them. And he just can't get past this. That was like 2 years ago or a year ago or something that happened. And then yesterday I said something about it to him because he brought it up again. I just said exactly what I just explained to you, listener, that obviously war is not good for the economy of a whole country or for the average productive person because they're suddenly not doing more production and things that are, just like good.
War is a net negative, but that doesn't mean somebody doesn't gain.
Right. That's so obvious, and he can't like get past this.
Most people lose.
No matter how many times you explain it to him, he already has He read something one time, and he has chosen that as his belief, and now that's it.
Evolutionary capitalism.
That's it. And no one can convince him otherwise, no matter
he's
how much
upgraded to
sense it
evolutionary
makes.
game theory.
No matter how much sense it makes or how relevant to the conversation it is for him, he will just dismiss it and then go on to something else so that you cannot challenge his already standing beliefs. Right?
That's most people.
Right,
oh my God. Okay, so let me present the original argument correctly instead of the misrepresentation Bonnie just said.
Oh, okay.
We were arguing about the profitability of government with war, not society with government, right? And you keep committing the broken window fallacy when you look at just the glazier, right? When you look at the people who benefit from this policy, but not look at the overall profitability of the project.
The glazier makes money.
I'm pretty sure that tons of politicians profit off of war.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so stupid to think not.
You're committing the broken window fallacy. We can look at the window glazier and see he makes profit from the broken window.
Yes.
That's what you're doing.
Yes.
And I'm explaining why the glazer would be happy that there would be more broken windows. I'm not saying that all of society benefits. That's what the broken window fallacy is. The broken window fallacy is that all of society benefits just because the window glazer gets a job.
Forget society. We're talking about government.
No, because that's involved in the broken window fallacy.
Society doesn't pay for war because we can pay for it with debt. That's the key. That's the difference here. That's where it's cut off from the tax man until we pay off.
Doesn't have anything to do with what I was talking about.
He doesn't believe in inflation, so if they print money to pay for war, it has no effect on the populace.
That's stupid.
I see.
What are you saying, Rich?
I said I just remember that you don't believe in inflation, so when you pay for war by printing money, it has no effect on the populace.
It does. I don't believe that inflating the money supply necessarily hurts the economy. I believe the argument that
and that's why you think war is okay.
No,
because you can pay for it without affecting the economy by just printing the money.
No, wait,
and he
let
also
me finish
thinks
my statement,
if
right?
you're the mightiest and the richest, you're right. So usually those are the people starting the wars.
Let me clarify. Don't straw man me. So I believe partly in the Keynesian theory, right? There can be a case where you can retransfer the command of capital, which is money, or print money, which is kind of like a theft of the command of capital, in order to better society, right? If you print money and use it on a profitable project or a more profitable project than otherwise would have occurred, you can help the economy and cause actual deflation.
That's just getting lucky, if anything.
But I don't believe government can do that because the incentives are perverted.
Who can do that?
This is where I differ. What's that?
Who can do it if not government?
Like maybe banks if they didn't have insurance laws like no, not necessarily.
I mean that's how they caused bank runs prior to the Federal Reserve.
This is why I don't think theft is inherently bad, right? You can steal capital for the betterment of society if you can produce more with it than the person you stole it from.
Society isn't even like
the same thing.
Well, that's again, I want to say that that's subjective, and the likelihood is it's not going to happen.
Whether or not profit is objective, whether you turn a profit or not from a project is objective. That's
how do you define society and society, what they gained out of this like building project? That's not definable enough. So it's obviously, like, if anything, subjective.
It's because you're not considering the opportunity cost. You're assuming that whatever's being produced with the stolen money,
more profitable than otherwise would have occurred.
How do you know?
Didn't I say that?
There's no way to know that, though.
Yeah.
There's a way to know.
It's impossible knowledge.
Evolution, the natural selection process, is the ultimate objective judge in every case of decision making.
Well, if evolution is the most important thing to you, why would controlling natural processes be a good thing ever?
I'm not saying government should. I'm saying the free market should determine what aggression should occur and not.
All right, thanks for the call, Skeeter.
They can allocate a resource to aggression.
Who judges?
Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. Call in, join the conversation.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. US President Joe Biden has urged America to unite as one nation following the attempted assassination of his political rival Donald Trump. President Biden said political violence went against American values.
There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or any violence for that matter. An assassination attempt is contrary to everything we stand for as a nation, everything. It's not who we are as a nation. It's not America. And we cannot allow this to happen. Unity is the most elusive goal of all, but nothing is important than that right now, unity. We'll debate and we'll disagree. That's not going to change, but we're going to not lose sight, in fact, who we are as Americans.
Donald Trump is attending the Republican convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the GOP is expected to officially nominate him as their presidential candidate. Meanwhile, the FBI has still not discovered a motive for the 20-year-old gunman's attack. Thomas Matthew Crooks was shot dead by a Secret Service sniper at a rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday afternoon. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
From the White House, Biden spoke not as a political candidate running for re-election, but as the commander and unifier-in-chief. Putting aside political differences, he said he was sincerely grateful that Donald Trump was doing well and recovering. He urged unity, saying America must now unite as one nation, and once again denounced political violence, saying it was contrary to everything that the US stands for. And while the FBI continues its investigation to find out the motives for the 20-year-old's attempted assassination of a former president, he said it was time for law enforcement to do their job and encouraged Americans not to make assumptions about the gunman, his motives, or his political affiliations. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Hamas insists it is continuing with ceasefire talks with Israel despite Saturday's attack on Gaza, which killed at least 90 Palestinians, according to the territory's health authorities. Sarah Coates has more from Tel Aviv.
Now, with fighting continuing right across the Strip, these very delicate, very fragile hostage and ceasefire talks once again hang in the balance. Now, we have heard from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the wake of this assassination attempt on one senior Hamas commander, leader Mohammed Deif. On Saturday, he came out to say that he's not absolutely certain that Deif was killed in Saturday's strike, adding that it's generated pressure on Hamas to soften its stance when it comes to negotiations.
Emergency officials have rescued 4 people after a section of a building collapsed in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. 2 people are critically injured and
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Talk radio you control. Call in at 603-283-6160 to talk about anything you like. It's officially unofficial. We've been podcasting since podcasts began, but we're launching a new podcast anyway. Our new podcast is 30 to 45 minutes show, releasing once a week, and you can find it at freetalkcast.com. It's brought to you by the same people who bring you Free Talk Live, and we'd love for you to check it out. Again, that's freetalkcast.com. Tonight in the studio, we have me, Lori.
Me, Bonnie.
And Richie Rich.
So I want to talk about this opinion piece from the Washington Post.
Reputable news source.
It's a reputable news source. This is titled, "Yes, Kink Belongs at Pride, and I Want My Kids to See It." Children need to know that they can make their own ways in the world.
Who wrote this, by the way?
A pedophile.
The woman's name is Lauren Rowello.
I just wanted to know if this was a man or woman, mostly. I guessed woman.
It was a woman, but I think she says she's like gender fluid or something. And her wife is trans. Anyway.
Close enough to a pedophile.
Oh my God. Groomer. Just kidding.
So, I mean, not if you want your kids to see kink, then that's not just kidding. That's gross. But it says, our family often took the train into Philadelphia. But as we rode across the bridge to attend the city's Pride Parade 5 years ago, my wife's leg bounced with a nervous jitter. She squeezed my hand, worried that she might run into a colleague or be harassed by a stranger. My wife is trans and wasn't out at the time, so she typically only expressed her authenticity in the privacy of our home. That morning, she wore a green skirt and light makeup, brushing her hair all to one side. Even though we'd attended Pride marches and protests in previous years, that day was our first celebrating openly as a family. When our children grew tired of marching, we plopped onto a nearby curb. Just as we got settled, our elementary schooler pointed in the direction of oncoming floats, raising an eyebrow at a bare-chested man in dark sunglasses whose black suspenders clipped into a leather thong.
Nice.
The man paused to be spanked playfully by a partner with a flog. What are they doing? My curious kid asked as our toddler cheered them on. The pair was the first of a few dozen kinksters who danced down the street laughing together as they twirled their whips and batons, some leading companions by leashes. At the time, my children were too young to understand the nuance of the situation, but I told them the truth, that these folks were members of our community celebrating who they are and what they like to do. Okay, so isn't Pride a movement to be proud of who you are?
Yeah.
Like, as far as you being gay or lesbian, love is love, all of that business?
Can be.
I don't think that it's intended to be like a kink fest. What does that have to do? So for one, your kinks should be not something that you're parading down the street. And people are like, don't kink shame, but like also don't kink flaunt in the middle of the roads. That's weird.
Yeah, it
unnecessary.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think it should fall under the auspices of Pride, because Pride should, it's like, yeah, it is called Pride, but I think it's about being like, I like the idea that it's more about being like, I will not be ashamed of who I am. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, like, no one needs to know about your kinks.
Right.
Like,
I think you both missed like the history of the movement.
Okay.
And how it relates to other movements that required parades to like change the world. Right. So at one point in time, they were in the closet and relegated to the closets of society. Mm-hmm. They couldn't be open about it. And if you were open, remember like gay bashing? Mm-hmm. That was a thing.
I mean, I don't, because I wasn't.
Yeah, but you're familiar that gays got beat up just for being gay.
Yeah.
Or castrated by the government,
Mm-hmm.
either physically or what's chemically castrated, just for being gay.
Yes.
American government would castrate gays?
Chemically castrated, yeah.
Really?
And England. At least England.
Like, what year is this?
World War II.
Oh, wow. I did not know that gays got castrated. What's the point of that? They're not reproducing.
Poor people got sterilized.
Yeah.
You know, black people got sterilized. People just got sterilized left and right in the past.
So you have a marginalized group, a small percentage of the population, being mistreated openly
Mm-hmm.
by the majority of the population,
Mm-hmm.
right? To the point where if you come out, right, you're not going to hold a job, you're not going to be treated well. You could get beaten up and even killed just for being gay, right? And then we got past that, and the trans people went, it's our turn, right? Because all of a sudden trans was the taboo. It's our turn.
Oh.
Because trans
you said
is
tartar. Sorry.
Trans is the new taboo, right? If you're trans, you could face harassment. You could face physical violence.
I just saw a story of a trans person that got killed from someone they met on a dating app online.
Just for being trans. They were targeted. Yeah.
That happens to women too.
Mm.
Right. But it happens to the trans people and the gay people and any marginalized group. People.
Yep.
But at a higher clip, right? That's why that's why we have the hate crimes that is unnecessary, but it's there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden they go like, well, we're going to take a different direction and we're going to openly flaunt it. And I would suggest that if they were accepted in society as normal, right? And just, hey, Frank's gay, right? Or Leslie's trans or whatever, and did not face decades of ridicule and harassment and violence, then there would be no need to have parades.
I think that the original Pride movement, gay and lesbian people being treated as completely normal members of society and like having all the same rights as everyone, has been achieved.
Yeah.
That has been totally achieved, and I'm fine. Like,
and so now we have another marginalized group doing the same thing.
Yes. And so now if trans people want to join the group and like get that for themselves too, totally cool and fine. What does spanking a leather-clad dude in suspenders and a thong, or like parading around with dildos stuck to your body, what does any of that have to do?
It's still taboo.
But it doesn't need to not be.
It doesn't. Right. It doesn't need to not be taboo.
I don't think there's anybody getting killed for. I don't. No, I don't.
No.
Because gay people get mad about it too. They're like, I'm gay and I just have my boyfriend and I'm not doing what Lori described.
You're assuming. I'm nothing. I'm just attracted to human beings.
Oh, okay.
No matter, like, I don't care what's going on in their downstairs mix-up. So you're assuming.
Well, I assume because you're married and have kids.
I am married and have kids. I just like human beings that I find attractive.
All right. Luckily, it was a man.
This time it was
with the ability to reproduce.
That's right. So
happenstance.
Happenstance.
Okay.
Yeah. So having dildos stuck to your body and like flogging each other, and that stuff should be taboo and kept behind closed doors where other people are not seeing it.
Yeah, and at one time, dildos were sold in like the Sears catalog.
Sell it in the Sears catalog. I don't care.
But they stopped and made it taboo.
Nobody needs to have a family-friendly. That's what they label these things. It's a family-friendly event. No one needs to have a family-friendly event where people are doing this stuff openly in the streets. It is absurd. It doesn't need to be accepted.
It doesn't need. Well, you're right. It doesn't need to be.
And it should not be.
That's an opinion. But this is how they get it accepted and not marginalized.
Why? Okay.
If you weren't marginalizing it, they wouldn't have to flaunt it.
Why?
They don't have to
I don't
swing
think
the
they're
pendulum that far.
marginalized. I think gay people, trans people are marginalized. I don't think that these kinks are quote unquote marginalized. Like I don't see people getting in trouble.
Having kinks. That is a individual thing that people on an individual basis have.
The one I could say
it's purely.
What if they were just nude?
Purely for sexual gratification. That's what a kink is. And so I don't care if they're nude. I literally do not care.
So if they were marching in the street nude, but you put on leather, problem.
It's not the fact that they put on leather, it's the intent. Putting on leather suspenders and spanking each other with flogs, yes, that has crossed into kink territory.
Okay.
It's creepy.
It's because it's marginalized.
No, because
if it were normal, you wouldn't have to have a parade.
What about just like normal vanilla sex
behavior?
Do you want there to be normalized, normal, like quote unquote vanilla sex, like on the streets?
You don't have to do that because it's already normalized.
But that's the thing. That other stuff is uncommon, but not marginalized, as in people get killed for being into being spanked with a thing.
I don't care if people want to spank each other. Go do it in your bedroom.
I don't care either. Right.
Go do whatever you want. Choke each other until you pass out. To hang yourself in your closet by a tie. I literally do not care what anyone does. You don't need to do it in the street. Nobody needs to know what you're into sexually. It is unnecessary and gross. It's gross.
Until the violence starts.
Why?
But there's never been a violence about that. That's the thing. Like you can say that there has about just being gay, being trans.
Yes.
I don't think you can say people will have historically been violent towards each other for like being into feet. That's one thing I can say people make fun of people for.
How would anyone even know what your kinks are unless you're parading them around in the streets? No one can know what they are if you just as a normal person keep them in the bedroom.
Plus, how is that even fun? If you like getting hit, isn't part of the fun of that like it's so like not okay, like it's not okay to like hit me, but I'm gonna let you do it anyway because I'm into it. Then it's like hot.
I think it's different.
If it's just normal,
I think it's different for
everybody.
I think
the difference there is consent.
The driving force behind it is different for everybody. Some people like the pain. Some people like the taboo of it.
The taboo of it, I would think, would be what makes it hot. But yeah,
it's not a thing that anyone needs to know. There's no way you're going to get attacked for having a kink if nobody knows like what your kink is. So if you're not parading it around in the street, how would anyone know?
What if your kink is parading it around the street?
Well, then
I don't know. That's what I think this is.
What if you've got an exhibitionist kink?
That's what that is.
Well, there you go.
Here's the thing. That's what I
some
actually
kinks need shamed then, because put it back.
That's what I think the kink is. I think people want other people to see them doing this stuff. In my take is a little different from Lori's even.
Have you ever had sex in public?
Not where anyone could see me.
I don't think that this is something that necessarily needs to be put down until they label it like kid friendly, because that's just like not kid friendly. Every Pride I've been to, I never saw anything about being kid friendly, and it wasn't. And that was fun because it's like basically at night on the street where there are gay bars. There shouldn't be kids there. I didn't see kids there, and it was so fun.
See, that's okay. Like if it's a non-family friendly event specifically for kink and stuff like that, like they have whole meetups for like kink communities where they go to and they spank each other and stuff, and that's totally fine. Everyone there is consenting to being a part of your kink. If you're doing it in the street, like with people who didn't consent to be part of your kink, that's gross.
Well, I mean, they consented to go to the parade, like they knew it was happening.
But there was no flyer passed out that said, "Hey, we're gonna have dudes,
okay,
kinking in the middle of the street."
I mean, don't go to the parade. Like, oh my God, they're spraying, then turn around and walk away. I mean, but that's a choice.
I agree.
The writer of the article wants to normalize this for her children, apparently.
Which is weird.
I also don't believe her that her kids cheered, or her toddler cheered. I'm just going to say that.
I mean, maybe her toddler did because he was like, oh, look at those silly people, because they don't have the same logic and reasoning skills that an adult has. They can't comprehend what's going on.
It's just a personal opinion. I don't believe her.
I will never normalize it. I would never, ever, ever take my kids to Pride. Not ever.
Okay.
And not because I'm a prude, but because that is weird and gross.
Hey, people are going to judge you how they judge you.
You can judge me. I don't
you
care.
judge it weird and gross, and then you pass that you pass that prejudice down to your kids, and she doesn't find it weird and gross, and she passes that prejudice down to her kids.
It's not weird and gross to do it. It's weird and gross to do it openly in front of other people who are not actively participating in your kink. That's the gross part.
And I really do think that is part of these people's kink, because if it was really just something that they were into for the taboo of it, they wouldn't be doing it in public. Right. Part of it is that they like other people to see it. Right, exactly.
Then do it in a place where it's specifically for that.
Like a pride parade.
No, that's not what Pride is supposed to be about. The guy who invented the Pride Parade came out and said, I regret it. I think that it is wrong now, and it's just a degenerate circus. Like, not in those exact words.
Who
but
could have
basically
saw that coming?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Because the marginalized groups feel marginalized, and you got to swing the pendulum in the other direction. If it was normal, they wouldn't need to have parades. But a history of, again, decades of marginalization caused the pendulum to swing.
Your kinks are not a marginalized group, though. Kinks are not a marginalized
By
group.
definition, it is, because it's not normal.
It's not, though. It's not who you are. Okay? Your kinks are not who you are.
Okay.
Like, you are not a guy in a dog collar getting led down the street.
Okay.
Like, that's not in a thong.
What about a Christmas parade? Like, are Jews subject to a Christmas parade because they don't celebrate the holiday?
What do you mean, are they subject to it?
If they're walking down the street like, oh my God, I had to see Santa Claus.
It's not the same thing. That is not even near the same thing.
Their kids, their Jewish children are going to grow up and like believe that there's a Santa Claus all of a sudden because they saw an old man in a red suit parading down the street.
It's not the same thing. That is not.
They're being subject to it because they're parading in the street.
If Santa's getting railed, then yeah, I would have a problem with it. Like, it's absurd to think that that's okay. And
I don't think you would see that
normalized.
in the Christmas parade.
You shouldn't see it at any parade unless it's in a totally private area where everyone has consented to being part of this experience.
Or public land where you got the permit.
Right, a private event.
No, or a public event.
Or a public event where it is explicitly stated that this is going to be going on.
Okay.
And not touted as a family-friendly event. Anyone who thinks that kids should be at Pride and seeing all of this stuff, I have to question, like, if they are mentally ill.
Again, that's fine to judge that way.
I do.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with it because it should not be marginalized to begin with.
And I think that where I differ is that I think there totally could be a kid-friendly Pride Parade.
Yes.
I just think that they don't do that most of the time.
Stuff. Like,
because they're trying to corrupt and groom your children.
I don't know why it is.
Probably not.
If that
they're probably trying to set up a world where they're not always getting attacked by the vast majority of people for being a little bit different.
So their entire existence hinges on the fact that they can openly have kinks in the street. That's what we should all be fighting for people to have acceptance of. We should all accept everyone just doing any kind of debaucherous behavior in the street openly, publicly.
As long as it's a public street, yes.
No.
Because it's public. They're paying for it too.
There, in a society, there has to be some kind of respect for others and some kind of...
No, that's your
Or
problem.
your society will not work.
Well, then privatize everything. Privatize the street, right? They have they pay equally. They have equal access, and I don't care what you do with your equal access.
Well,
as long well, then stop paying, right? Or privatize it.
But then you just won't be paying, and you still have to use the road, and people will be showing your kids gross stuff in the street.
Go use private roads.
But there aren't any.
I know. So this is a problem with, again, the public roads.
I
As long as
agree
there's
that-
going to be public property that everyone is forced to pay into
Mhm.
and has equal access to, right?
That
You're
is
going to run into
definitely,
this.
yep. That is definitely the problem. But I don't think that Lori herself has a solution that's right in front of her face.
I do not.
It's
she
privatize
can't-
the roads.
That's what I'm saying. Like she doesn't have that option to just be like, you know what, I'm Lori. I'm privatizing the roads now.
Well, yeah, but her option is to stay on private land and not go there with her kids.
I won't.
That's fine. That should be the end of the conversation then.
Okay.
You're virtue signaling, like you're upset, like this is so obscene.
It
you
is
don't
obscene.
Even, but you don't even participate, and it doesn't affect you, and it doesn't affect your kids.
It is obscene.
You don't even care about those kids.
Those kids are going to grow up and be in society with my kids.
They're going to grow up and be tolerant of other people in your society, including your kids, who are going to grow up to be intolerant.
Well,
in the
they
same
might,
society.
or they might grow up and be total weirdos.
There are some things that shouldn't be tolerated.
Okay.
Well, here's the
I would
thing.
say aggression would be the only thing I can think of off the top of my head.
I think that people
Forcing someone into something that they didn't consent to,
That would be aggression.
that's aggression.
I
like
just
forcing your kinks on somebody without their consent.
But those kids who grow up in their society aren't going to be forcing anything on your kids. It's going to be the other way around.
I
Unless
think that
they're
that's
openly-
Your kids are going to be the prudish ones yelling at them to like put on pants.
But that's an assumption that they'll just grow up like totally normal people who also are open-minded. And I'm not saying that I know the opposite is true, but I just think that it's also very possible that they grow up all messed up and like, overly sexual and like do things like that are wrong. It's possible that they grow up more open-minded. It's also possible that it messes them up and they grow up like rapists.
There have been studies.
That's unlikely.
There have been studies done on children who have been exposed to sexual things too early in their lives.
Yep.
And it leads to a lot of problems.
Sure. And there's also prudish societies like Japan who turn to tentacle porn,
Yeah.
right? Because they're not allowed to do the normal things.
Okay. I think we talked about that like last week or the week before with the prudish societies and the tentacle porn. So yes, there's a balance.
And religious.
There's a balance. You can't act like
Religious upbringing leads to deviant behavior.
you cannot act like abstinence only societies, but you also just kinks openly in the street is
I
not
gotcha.
healthy for people.
And if it wasn't marginalized, they wouldn't be open in the street.
I
That's
don't-
my point.
I don't know. I don't think so.
It's the decades of marginalizing them that causes this overreaction.
I have a
And
friend.
once it's accepted, they won't have to parade in the streets because nobody will care.
I have a friend that I grew up with, and we were like, she was like 8 and I was 7, so she's a year older than me. And she told me recently, like, that she doesn't talk to her dad anymore. I was honestly really shocked. And she said, like, one of the reasons she doesn't like her dad is, like, he would always talk about sexual stuff way too early and way too in detail to her. And I was like, I asked if he like abused her, and she said no. It's just that she thinks that is totally wrong, and like that's something she thinks made her make bad decisions.
That's one of the things that goes along with kids being exposed to sexual things too early is extreme risk-taking behaviors they find, and depression and anxiety and all kinds of problems because it's not normal.
You're right. It's not normal. It needs to be normalized. And
Why?
then it'll go away.
I don't think so.
They won't have parades once everything's cool.
I don't think so.
I can guarantee you they won't have parades.
Then, no. Okay.
But that's the thing. I think that they have already achieved. People don't get killed for being gay.
That's right.
So the pride parades aren't going to go away.
Well, that's why it's expanded into the trans and this other stuff, right? You can take away the pride label, right? But the gays have achieved their goal because they marched in parades.
Okay, but the gay rights and the lesbian rights and the trans rights are like human rights. The right to flog people.
But they
and
weren't
the right,
until they marched in parades.
The right to have, open sexual activities in the street is not a human right. That's not a human right issue.
On public land, it is.
No,
I
it's
disagree.
not.
I disagree.
You're trying to control people and their use of the public lands.
The only right you have is to not be like harmed by others.
They're not harming anybody.
They're harming children.
They're not harming children.
I'm not saying they're harming
each
anyone.
other.
I'm just simply saying they don't have the right to do that. And it's not that they.
And you're virtue signaling that you care about the kids who are looking at it because your kids aren't exposed.
I do. Those kids are going to grow up and be part of society that my kids are going to be in. I can care about other people's kids without being like, those are my kids.
I don't think that you do.
I do.
You're not doing anything about it. You're not going and kidnapping them. I'm not going to let your mom expose you to this because I care.
Well, that's because that's not my place.
You're right. It's not.
No, but I can talk about it.
You can absolutely talk about it.
And I can educate people on why it's not a good idea.
You absolutely can.
Because exposing children to these types of things too early in their childhood damages them.
Maybe.
I could keep giving like lots of examples of people I know and how they turned out because I just have always paid attention to that type of thing, but it would just be anecdotal. But it just seems like all the kids I knew whose like mom was like, yeah, that the dog's humping the other dog, something my mom would never say in front of me, grew up to be just like boyfriend after boyfriend, trashy, tons of kids with different parents, different dads, stuff like that.
Sexual abuse goes like one of two directions, right? Either you're hypersexualized and you can't get enough, or you have no sexual drive at all. It depends on the person. But sexual abuse itself happens, and it usually deviates into one of those two paths. And you can't tell which up front.
And you don't think that sexualizing or normalizing open sexuality to small children would maybe open them up to be more vulnerable to being sexually abused because it's totally normal?
What do you think happened with human civilization before the advent of like the 2-room apartment?
Everyone smashed each other
with the kids in the room. You had big families. They had sex with kids in the room.
I don't know if I'm not accepting that that's definitely a historical fact.
It's a historical fact.
Are you saying that people in the past were like civilized, great society where they like hung black people and burned witches and like smashed each other with rocks?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like
I'm saying before
we had like
when they were living in log cabins and had 8 children, they had sex in the room with 7 of those children.
And
probably
they were
when they're
all messed
asleep.
up. And they were all messed up.
They weren't all messed up.
And like hung black people from trees and like burned witches and, women weren't allowed to be people and all of these things. Like society was messed up. Maybe they didn't do things right. Maybe that's not the right way to do things.
Having sex in the room with children is what caused the hanging of black children.
No. I'm not saying exactly. But you're saying that you think that what do you think they did back then?
I'm
you
saying
don't think
human
that they were
civilization, you had sex in front of kids.
And you're saying everything was fine. She's saying everything wasn't fine.
And everything was not fine.
It was fine enough to get us to where we are today.
That's not really a marker of being fine, though.
Okay.
We live in cloud world.
Well, but we got through it. The human species didn't die out.
I would like to think that they waited till kids were asleep.
I don't think that getting through it should be the goal.
You've never been walked in on.
Getting through it shouldn't be the goal. It should be like bettering the world and like yourself.
It did. We're a lot better off than we were back then.
And so we should go back to openly having sex in the street.
No, I'm saying it wasn't as bad as you think it is.
I think it is bad.
Because those kids, they're like, most of them turned out fine.
I also think there's a difference between
I don't think so.
You're accidentally noticing your parents are having sex and like noticing your mom is wearing a leather thong and your dad's spanking her.
In a gimp suit, right. Like it's not normal and shouldn't be.
That's your judgment.
Free Talk Live. Call in at 603-283-6160.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. Forkfest.party.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. US President Joe Biden has urged America to unite as one nation following the attempted assassination of his political rival Donald Trump. President Biden said political violence went against American values.
There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or any violence for that matter. An assassination attempt is contrary to everything we stand for as a nation, everything. It's not who we are as a nation. It's not America. And we cannot allow this to happen. Unity is the most elusive goal of all, but nothing is important than that right now, unity. We'll debate and we'll disagree. That's not going to change. But we're going to not lose sight, in fact, who we are as Americans.
President Biden also paid tribute to the spectator who was shot dead by the gunman.
Last night, I spoke with Donald Trump. I'm sincerely grateful that he's doing well and recovering. And we had a short but good conversation. Jill and I are keeping him and his family in our prayers. We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victim who was killed. He was a father. He was protecting his family from the bullets that were being fired. And he lost his life. God love him.
Donald Trump is attending the Republican convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the GOP is expected to officially nominate him as their presidential candidate. Meanwhile, the FBI has still not discovered a motive for the 20-year-old gunman's attack. Thomas Matthew Crooks was shot dead by a Secret Service sniper at a rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday afternoon. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
From the White House, Biden spoke not as a political candidate running for re-election, but as the commander and unifier-in-chief. Putting aside political differences, he said he was sincerely grateful that Donald Trump was doing well and recovering. He urged unity, saying America must now unite as one nation, and once again denounced political violence, saying it was contrary to everything that the US stands for. And while the FBI continues its investigation to find out the motives for the 20-year-old's attempted assassination of a former president, he said it was time for law enforcement to do their job and encouraged Americans not to make assumptions about the gunman, his motives, or his political affiliations. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Hamas insists it is continuing with ceasefire talks with Israel despite Saturday's attack on Gaza, which killed at least 90 Palestinians, according to the territory's health authorities. Sarah Coates has more from Tel Aviv.
Now, with fighting continuing right across the Strip, these very delicate, very fragile hostage and ceasefire talks once again hang in the balance amid conflicting reports from Hamas officials on whether the group will move forward on these talks or whether it will pull out. Now, we have heard from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the wake of this assassination attempt on one senior Hamas commander, leader Mohammed Deif. On Saturday, he came out to say that he's not absolutely certain that Deif was killed in Saturday's strike, adding that it's generated pressure on Hamas to soften its stance when it comes to negotiations.
Emergency officials have rescued 4 people after a section of a building collapsed in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. 2 people are critically injured and receiving medical attention in hospital. Tessem Akende reports.
The two-story building was formerly a hotel but modified into a residential apartment. Authorities at the Department of Development Control in Abuja say substandard materials were used in its construction. Building collapses are common in Nigeria. On Friday, a school building collapsed in Jos in the country's northern region, killing 22 people. The government says it will ensure more routine checks on buildings to ensure developers adhere to the country's building code and avoid use of substandard materials to prevent more collapses. Tassim Akendi, Jos.
The main headlines again. US President Joe Biden has urged America to unite as one nation following the attempted assassination of his political rival Donald Trump. Hamas insists it is continuing with ceasefire talks with Israel, despite Saturday's attack on Gaza, which killed at least 90 Palestinians, according to the territory's health authorities. And emergency officials have rescued 4 people after a section of a building collapsed in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. And that is the latest from Feature Story News. I'm Jagrati Dave in Washington.
It's the Onion Radio News. Starbucks begins its sinister Phase 2 of operation. This is Doyle Redland reporting. After a decade of aggressive expansion throughout North America and abroad, Starbucks suddenly and unexpectedly closed its 56,423 worldwide locations today to prepare for what insiders call Phase 2 of the company's long-range plan. Cynthia Valcant, Starbucks head of marketing, made this brief statement at a press conference earlier today.
We have enjoyed furnishing you with coffee-related beverages and are excited about the important role you play in our future plans.
Existing Starbucks franchises across the nation have been shuttered with high-strength titanium, and the well-known Starbucks logo has been slightly altered to present the familiar mermaid figure as a cyclopean mermaid whose all-seeing eye forms the apex of a world-spanning pyramid. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. Call in, join the conversation, or bring up something totally different that you would like to talk about. I'd like to thank Ryan Walsh for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Ryan went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, and Support. Thanks to Ryan Walsh and everyone who supports us.
Promote and support.
Yeah, I just was about to say that was a typo.
Promote and support. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. Tonight in the studio, you have me, Lori.
Me, Bonnie.
And Rich.
That was my typo.
Ruined it for everybody.
That's it.
It's Telegram. You can fix that. You can edit that post, and it'll be there the next time.
Yeah.
Then pin it to the top.
Yep. So we're talking about whether kink in public is beneficial or not, like this person seems to think it is. This article from the Washington Post, it's not an article, it's an opinion piece, continues to say, the kink community has participated in Pride since its inception, risking their jobs and safety to be authentically themselves in public. Still, every year as Pride Month approaches, a debate erupts about whether kink belongs at Pride at all. Those hoping to oust kinksters often cite the presence of children as their top concern. That was pointedly the case this year when Twitter users argued that kink at Pride is highly sexualized experience that children should be shielded from. Thousands of users supported these posts, claimed that kink at Pride crosses a line because minors also attend events.
Prudes and Puritans.
Sure. I agree that Pride should be a welcoming space for children and teens, but policing how others show up doesn't protect or uplift young people. Instead, homogenizing self-expression at Pride will do more harm to our children than good. When my own children caught glimpses of kink culture, they got to see that the queer community encompasses so many more non-traditional ways of being, living, and loving. Kink is not any of those things. It's not
being
loving?
Living, and loving?
No, kink is not loving. It is literally, loving is a whole separate thing than kink. It's purely for sexual gratification.
There is this guy, okay, well, I think sex is loving, can be loving.
It can be. It's not necessarily.
So there was this guy that I went on like one date with that was into feet, and
Was it Joa?
No, I didn't go on one date with Joa.
So just checking, because he now has an OnlyFans with just his feet on it.
I did not know that.
Okay,
No,
all right.
not his own feet. He was into girls' feet, and he was like,
Okay. I
"You
think
have
it's
the
his
most-"
feet. I haven't clicked the link.
I'd be wearing flip flops. I didn't go to bed with this guy, and he'd be like, "You have the most beautiful feet. Your feet are perfect," and all this stuff. It wasn't like
She's hiding them.
wasn't like he went, "Oh, that's how I said it." So I said a lot. No, I actually don't agree. I don't have like perfect feet. I think that other people have better looking feet than me. So I definitely felt, wow, that is so nice. That's not like gross.
Mm-hmm.
How is that not loving?
Kink and love are two different things. Sex does not have to involve love.
Well, yeah.
Everybody has had
There's
sex
an
with
overlap.
somebody that they do not love.
I think that sex doesn't have to involve love, and that sex can involve love. So that's why I don't think you can say just blanket statement, kink is not loving.
There's an overlap.
Yeah,
Kink,
there's
an
an
overlap with love and sex. There's an overlap with love and kink. There's an overlap with kink and sex.
Yes. But kink is not specifically about living and loving. Like it's literally
If that's your
for
true, authentic self.
It's for sexual gratification. It
But
has no purpose in the public space.
I also don't think that it has anything to do with your real self, quote unquote.
Right.
Just like, I don't think having straight, normal sex has something to do with who I am.
Right.
It's
exactly.
a part of you. It's absolutely a part of you.
Part of you, but like nobody is going about their everyday lives. I mean, if you are thinking about sex 24 hours a day and everything you do in your whole life is about sex, I will argue that you are over-sexualized and probably damaged.
I think the same thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know if I can really say that, because one guy told me that men are like 13 times, I hate this word, hornier than any woman ever has been at the peak in their life.
I don't think
I don't
that's
know
true.
about that.
He said
I don't think that's true.
but he said that's like something that was like discovered.
Maybe at the peak.
I think that's just something like 13-year-old boys tell each other to like feel better. Women are also horny. Like it's a thing. We also think about sex. Like it's normal, but it's not normal to go walk around all day and be like, you know what I'm into? You know what do you want to watch? Do you want me to show you what I'm into? Like that's not normal.
They're not doing that every day. They're doing that at a parade, of which they got a permit for.
Which has nothing to do. Nobody should be accepting each other's kinks. Like,
Well,
just
that's
keep
kind
it
of why
put
it's
away.
not what you are, quote unquote.
Right.
They're not doing it all day.
But
It's
they're
not-
hiding it during the day. They already said that. The part of the article you just read.
Just like everybody else is with their sexual proclivities. Everyone.
And you shouldn't have to hide it. That's their point.
Why should everybody be exposed to someone else's sexual proclivities?
Not exposed, but there are certain things.
Exposed. That's what they're doing.
At a parade, because
Uh-huh.
they can't do it in their normal life for fear of job loss and judgment.
Why
from
don't they
prison
just have
stations.
like
Okay,
buy
but
a
that's
big
what I'm
room
saying.
and invite whoever wants to come into it to be exposed to it?
That's what I'm
They do.
saying.
It's called an orgy.
So you're saying that they do it at this thing because they have to hide it in their everyday lives.
Yes.
And I'm saying,
And normal straight people don't necessarily have to hide it.
hide what? Nobody is walking around talking about what they're into.
No, they do have to hide it. Like there was this gross, nasty couple that had sex on their front porch near a bus stop in Utah that like was a big deal when I lived there. It, like people weren't just like, hey, at least it's straight. Who cares? You know,
Right.
like it was gross and weird and
Exactly.
crazy.
It's not the fact
Because it's
that
not normalized.
It's not the
It
fact
shouldn't
that
be.
they're into something. It's the fact that that is a thing that is not meant for public display.
Okay.
That's all.
I find it hard to define exactly why it shouldn't be, but I still think
Because
it
it's a
shouldn't
prejudice.
I don't think so.
Likely stemming from the way you were raised and how your parents felt about it.
I don't think that it's a prejudice. I think that that's
It's
just
definitely a prejudice.
I mean, or maybe I'm prejudiced, I guess. I just don't think it's not useful. It's not useful to be in the public space. Other people are not consenting to be part of this. And if you are, so say you're an
You don't have to consent to be a part of it.
Say you are an exhibitionist and your kink is exhibitionism, right?
Yeah.
So you're out being an exhibitionist. You are involving everybody in that space in your kink. You are getting sexually gratified by other people watching you do this.
Yeah, in public, for which you got a permit for.
I don't care if you get a permit.
mean,
That has nothing to do with any of that.
Sure it does. It gives you the right to use the public space.
You can use the public space. The fact that you are forcing other people to be part of your sexual gratification.
You're not forcing anybody to
You
do anything.
are.
What if somebody has to cross that street to get to their job?
You can look away. You can put on blinders. You can take another route.
Nobody said, hey, there's a guy over here jacking it. Like, no one says that before you get there. No one's saying that.
No one says
you
it,
just
but
show up.
I've walked into a McDonald's and watched a retarded dude do just that in the urinal after school one day.
and that's terrible.
And we just like bolted out of the room. We're like, whoa, that was unusual. I don't want to stay in there while he's doing that. And so we left.
Why didn't you want to stay in there? It should be normalized.
It's normal. Just normalize it.
It's normal.
It's totally fine. You should watch.
Because I wasn't that open in high school.
Well, and so now you would walk into the bathroom and be like, good job, dude. You should I show you some techniques.
No, I'd probably stand next to him and take a leak like I had planned to do.
I guess you're way more accepting and open than
Yes.
I am about that.
And I wasn't then.
I don't find it to be okay.
And I am now. I've expanded my horizons.
I think the really important thing about this whole subject is, Lori, do you think that woman should have her kids taken away by force?
No.
Exactly.
No, I do not. And I think she can raise her kids any way she wants. But I think that it's bad parenting and she shouldn't do it because she's potentially damaging her kids and potentially damaging future society.
And she might say the same about your kids. And she's not coming after yours.
I'm not coming after her kids.
And she's not coming after yours.
She'd have to be convincing. She'd have to be convincing if she believed that about Lori's kids and wanted to talk about it on the radio.
Yeah, if she was like, you don't expose your kids to kinks and so you're a bad parent. Like, I feel like...
Yeah, you're overprotective. Don't let them out. Helicoptering them because I don't want them exposed to kink. Or letting them cross the street when they're too young or taking a bus.
Oh, yeah, because I don't put my 2-year-old on public transportation.
Yeah.
Helicopter parent.
You're infantilizing adults.
They're adults.
They're not adults.
But they'll turn into infantilized adults.
Eventually, they will be adults, and by then they will have the skills because I will teach them the skills when they're appropriate for their age and development.
Maybe.
No, yes, I will.
We'll see.
All right, we have a call. David in New Mexico. Hi, David.
Show feet, Bonnie. Show feet.
No, I'm telling you, I really don't have that cute of feet. This guy was obsessed with feet.
I'll tell you what. I'll describe them to you later after she stands up, David.
No, prove up, Bonnie. You said now the guy said you did, and you say you don't. So now you got to for sure.
I actually totally would if my toenails were done. My toenails are not overgrown right now, but the nail polish is messed up.
Toenails. Just show us the bottoms of the feet, like we're used to seeing on OnlyFans, ChatterBait.
Start a GoFundMe for Bonnie to get her toenails done.
I do them myself. I just haven't done them in 2 weeks. So right before Pork Fest, I had them done, and then so that's 3 weeks ago.
Show us your feet, David.
Okay. David's Twitter picture was him in a Speedo.
Yeah, I got a Speedo picture on the internet, Bonnie, so you can at least show your bottom. I mean, the bottom of your feet.
Oh my gosh.
So what do you want to talk about besides Bonnie feet?
Well, you were talking about the kink, and so my little kinky bunny rabbits and my little kinky javelina piggies, they run around the yard doing public displays of kink.
Yeah, they're also uncivilized animals.
Oh,
no, they're not. My bunnies and my javelina are very civilized. I can prove it.
Are they? I've seen javelina.
Yeah.
They are not. They'll run through and rip your porch off and tear your garbage apart.
Yeah, those are supposed to be scary.
Yeah. Okay, so let me tell you this javelina story. So, I would throw my kitchen scraps out at the edge of the yard in a little ravine. You'd walk out there, and then you'd get to the edge of it, and you'd look down, and you could throw your scraps down there and forget about them, right? So one morning I walked out there, and the javelina piggy or the javelinas were eating the kitchen scraps. And the next day I come back and they're there again, and then they're there again, and then one morning it was always the mom and the baby piggies, and then one morning I walked out there and it was the mom and the baby piggies and the big fat daddy javelina, and he looked up at me. He was a big one too. He's 60 pounds. And he had 3-inch tufts on him. And he looked up at me and he snorted. And then he ran around the edge of the ravine and he chased me, and I started running away. He was 20 feet behind me, and I ran for about 3-4 seconds, and then I thought, wait a minute, this is my yard, and I slammed on the brakes, and I turned around, and he slammed on the brakes, and his eyes got really big, and all of a sudden he turned around and he ran away from me.
That's not being civilized.
No.
He saw you checking out his chick's feet.
Yeah, well, the best part is still to come. The emphasis on that last word.
That is the best part.
So, yeah. So I chased him, And then I thought it was funny, so I stopped chasing him, and I felt bad because he was all mean and tough. And then all of a sudden, when I turned on him, like I said, his eyes got big, just like like a person, and he ran away from me. And then so I thought it was funny, and I stopped. And when I stopped, he stopped, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I got like, okay, all right, and I just walked back to the house.
You emasculated him in front of his woman.
Yeah, but a half hour later, he and his woman, and with all their little babies in tow, show up to the front porch where we're hanging out, and they hang out there with us. They just
That's
now
awesome.
we're buddies because he attacked me and I attacked him, and now we're all buddies. But get this,
That's not
So
civilization,
they're-
though. That's
That is
domestication.
acting just like an animal, I
That's
think.
domestication. It's different.
No, but then they're hanging out there like 10, 15 minutes, and all of a sudden he walks up to the back end of his girlfriend, his wife, and he starts having oral sex right there in front of everybody.
Ew. What? That's not civilized. So what are you talking about now?
I didn't say it was civilized. I said it was kink.
Oh.
Oh, well, you said that they are civilized and you have proof, and then you told us that.
Well, they are civilized. They behave just like you, Bonnie, and you, Lori. And they're more civilized than Richie.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, that is a really cute story, minus the last part. And
last part was not very cute.
Yeah, well.
I just met pigs at Jay Noon's house, and I think it's so crazy how you can just tell how intelligent they are.
Pigs are scary.
They are scary, but they're also really cute. And he has 2 big, giant female pigs, and then all their babies live in this fenced-in area. And I walked with him.
Were they guilty? The female pigs, were they guilty?
What? I don't know. What does that mean?
Or were they guilt means that they've they've not been bred. They've not had a litter. I don't know if they do pigs like they do cattle. A heifer is still a heifer until after her second calf.
I thought a gilt was a castrated male. Is it? No?
No, that's a barrow. That's a barrow.
Okay, yeah.
All I know is they had just had babies, which were more than one. There was they each had 5, only 2 weeks prior. And
they should have had 8, 10, 12.
Well, yeah, maybe that much. I'm just saying that I didn't count them. I'm just saying that we got one because you said after she has her first sow or her first baby,
litter.
They didn't have
First
just one.
litter.
Okay. Well, anyways, we walk up, me and Jay, and he's just hello, whatever he calls her. I don't know if it has a name off the top of my head or just hello pig. And it looks at him and then looks at me and then it goes to the puppies or whatever they call them, piglets, and then they know it's okay, and then they all come out. It was there was definitely communication that happened, and it was awesome. It's it looked at Jay for confirmation. It looked at me to be all right, I trust you, and then it went to the piggies, and then they all came out. It was so cool. And the next time I went there, Jay wasn't right there when I was I'm gonna go pet the little piggies. All the piggies stayed under their covering and wouldn't come out.
Pigs are really intelligent. They're
so cute.
More intelligent than dogs, they say.
You know how to, Bonnie, you want to know how to pick up a baby pig without making it squeal?
How?
Pick it up by the tail.
No.
I don't think that's true.
No, that's what. Ask Jay.
Okay. Well, they have tiny little tails and big fat bodies, so I feel that would hurt them.
Yeah.
Nope. They'll if you pick them up by the leg, they'll squeal like a pig. But if you pick them up by the tail, they'll be silent.
Why wouldn't you just pick them up by their bellies like a dog?
Because then they'll squeal like a pig.
That'd be kind of cute, though. But the moms are so much bigger than the javelina pigs you're talking about. These pigs are probably 300 pounds.
Javelinas are crazy.
Yeah, I've always heard the javelinas are really bad, and that's why you can go get paid to kill them in Texas. They'll let you kill them and give you money for it.
When I was in Arizona, they would go. A lot of people there have trailers or campers, whatever, and
Of course they do.
Because it's a super transient state. And the javelinas would go under people's campers, trailers, whatever, and rip them up. And stay under there. You'd have to try to get them out, but they're extremely aggressive.
That's why I was so surprised that the way that one acted with David, how he just was able to make him stop attacking him.
He's Snow White.
Yeah, seriously. He just has a special animal connection.
It was that old male macho bonding thing, because he was being all macho to impress his woman. He was chasing me off to save his family, and so I ran, and so he was all impressed with himself. And then I'm like, wait a minute, this is my yard. So I slam on the brakes, and then I turn around, and he's like, whoa, man, and he freezes, and then he runs away from me. And so it was that old, you get in a fight with a dude, and then you're buddies for life. So that's what it was, Bonnie.
Were you ever able to touch the babies, and how big were they?
No, they were tiny. They were like I don't know. They were like the body from nose to butt, about 8 inches long, and they probably weighed about 2 pounds each. They were like a week old.
So cute.
And no, I didn't get to touch them.
Is that how men operate? They get into fights and then they're friends?
Ask Richie.
It's possible. Yeah.
I could never.
It's a thing.
Yeah. I could never.
If I'm like physically fighting another woman, it's because we hate each other.
I've never been in a physical fight with another woman, but that would never end with me being friends with her.
I never have either, but like it would have to come to absolute hate for me to get into a physical fight.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's just practice. It's practice for the real thing.
It's a bonding ritual.
Yes, I'll agree with David.
There
on
were
this one.
definitely times where like me and a girl had spats, and then we ended up being friends. But that's like not since like high school anyway. Like spats, like being like, hey,
Like
I
an
don't
argument.
like you, and I don't like you for this, and then you end up being like, you know what, that was ridiculous, and we're friends. But that like basically only ever happened in high school. Like I feel like I'm not hormonal enough to be in a spat with a girl anymore.
Yeah, what kind of mono? What kind of mono?
Stop it, mono.
This is not how you get feet pics, David.
Mono. What kind of mono are you, or not?
Stop! I already said it. You can rewind it.
Do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
He will.
I got endless stuff. I got 4 baby Roadrunners living in my workshop, Bonnie.
Why did you call in at the last second of the show last night when it was over? Were you like asleep and you woke up and?
Yeah, I'm too po, Bonnie. I don't have a clock. I'm so po. I don't even have a clock on my smartphone.
What?
What?
That makes no sense.
Can't afford that.
Yeah, it makes no. That's what I keep telling the smartphone company. But they say, no, you too po. You can't have time. You got to put the time feature is a premium feature, and you can't fold it.
Is this Straight Talk or something?
Yeah, straight. It's called Straight Talk, no time.
Okay.
The no time plan.
That might be the most obvious deceitful thing I've heard David say.
Just the most obvious.
Was that too obvious? Damn.
I mean, there's so
Never
much
once did lie.
like phones have had clocks on them for so long that to have a phone that doesn't have a clock on there is.
I think
Well,
even the
I
teeny
got
tiny ones. Remember when they had the teeny itty bitty tiny, like they had a thing where they wanted to make phones as small as humanly possible?
Yeah, and then they
I
made
think
fun of it on Saturday Night Live.
I think they still had clocks on them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm so old. I got the very first smartphone ever invented. It was carved out of granite, and it had no time function, no clock on it.
Not even a sundial?
No,
Like the
there was no room
Flintstones?
for the sundial. No, and it was already too heavy. They didn't want to put a sundial on there because it was already too heavy because it was made out of granite.
Oh, so a granite triangle would have been way too much weight for that thing.
Oh man, can you imagine?
No.
And besides, when you try to put it in your pocket, Richie, that sundial thing poke you in the butt.
Oh, don't put it in your back pocket.
Well, where are you going to
Unless
put
you're
it
into
then,
that.
Richie?
Put it in
Where
your
are you
front
gonna put
pocket,
it,
facing out.
Well, so it pokes you in the boob then.
No.
Or the man boob, in your case.
No.
In your case, the man
Are your
boob.
boobs in your pants? That's
Number one,
How old
face
are
it
you?
out.
Shirt pocket.
It's got a
that's
flat-
right. Richie don't wear no shirt.
It's got a
I
flat
wear
back and a
shirts. I'm
triangle
still on.
front.
I've never seen phones this small. I
love a
googled.
triangle front. I love a triangle front, especially on a lady.
I googled smallest smart or not even
Smallest
smart,
what?
just smartest mobile phone and
Wait a minute, Bonnie. You Googled smallest what?
mobile phone. And
Oh,
this
that's-
one is seriously like the length of like my finger.
And a picture
Yeah.
of David came up.
they
Oh.
were tiny, and seeing people use them was ridiculous. They would like hold this
Stop
teeny
showing
tiny
my picture.
phone.
Stop showing my picture, Bonnie. And it's bigger than your finger. I know it's bigger than your finger.
Your
Well,
phone,
then the
your
length,
phone has
okay,
no clock
it's-
on it.
The Speedo was just when he got out of the water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
just got out of
came
the
out of the water. The proof is right there in the picture. I just came out of the cold water.
Yeah, it's been a while since I looked at it, but yes. Just came out of the water in a Speedo.
Thanks for the call, David. Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. Call in, join the conversation.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. US President Joe Biden has urged America to unite as one nation following the attempted assassination of his political rival Donald Trump. President Biden said political violence went against American values.
There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or any violence for that matter. An assassination attempt is contrary to everything we stand for as a nation, everything. It's not who we are as a nation. It's not America. And we cannot allow this to happen. Unity is the most elusive goal of all. But nothing is important than that right now, unity. We'll debate and we'll disagree. That's not going to change. But we're going to not lose sight, in fact, who we are as Americans.
Donald Trump is attending the Republican convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the GOP is expected to officially nominate him as their presidential candidate. Meanwhile, the FBI has still not discovered a motive for the 20-year-old gunman's attack. Thomas Matthew Crooks was shot dead by a Secret Service sniper at a rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday afternoon. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
From the White House, Biden spoke not as a political candidate running for re-election, but as the commander and unifier in chief. Putting aside political differences, he said he was sincerely grateful that Donald Trump was doing well and recovering. He urged unity, saying America must now unite as one nation, and once again denounced political violence, saying it was contrary to everything that the US stands for. And while the FBI continues its investigation to find out the motives for the 20-year-old's attempted assassination of a former president, he said it was time for law enforcement to do their job and encouraged Americans not to make assumptions about the gunman, his motives, or his political affiliations. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Hamas insists it is continuing with ceasefire talks with Israel despite Saturday's attack on Gaza, which killed at least 90 Palestinians, according to the territory's health authorities. Sarah Coates has more from Tel Aviv.
Now, with fighting continuing right across the Strip, these very delicate, very fragile hostage and ceasefire talks once again hang in the balance. Now, we have heard from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the wake of this assassination attempt on one senior Hamas commander, leader Mohammed Deif. On Saturday, he came out to say that he's not absolutely certain that Deif was killed in Saturday's strike, adding that it's generated pressure on Hamas to soften its stance when it comes to negotiations.
Emergency officials have rescued 4 people after a section of a building collapsed in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. 2 people are critically injured and
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. Call in, join the conversation. We are going to get, in the studio you have me, Lori.
Me, Bonnie.
And Richie Rich.
Okay, we're going to continue this conversation about whether or not kink belongs in public family-friendly spaces.
I just don't understand why does this keep happening? Where they write that it's family-friendly or kid-friendly specifically, and then there's something most people would not consider family or kid-friendly there.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying it happens at every single pride. It probably doesn't. Like, there probably have been prides where they wrote family-friendly, and then they, there was just, like, people in drag or other things that, like, maybe not everyone likes, but not something so crazy that most people would be, like, not okay with. Yeah. But it happens so often. Why? It's almost like somebody is co-opting their movement.
The pride movement?
Yeah, like, it's almost like somebody wants to make them look bad, because I don't think most gay people are okay with showing kids, like, dildos.
I mean, the movement has transformed, as you noted earlier, right? The gays and the lesbians, they're covered. They're cool. Like, it's normal now. They got the marriage thing going. Mm-hmm. It's allowed. They're not getting bashed as often as they used to.
Yeah.
So under the same banner, they're just moving on to the next marginalized group. And
which you said is trans, but that doesn't necessarily involve kink either.
You're right.
Kink is not like gender identity or, who you want to be with romantically or otherwise.
But any marginalized group, if you want to normalize whatever their thing is, they're going to have to march.
Tons of marginalized groups that should not be normalized.
Okay. Again, that's a judgment. But this, from their perspective, it should be.
Like white supremacists. Should we normalize that?
Yeah, absolutely.
We should?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I want to know who those people are and not shop at their store. Right? All that stuff should be out in the open so you know who you want to interact with.
I don't think
Otherwise, you accidentally interact with a white supremacist.
I don't think it should be normalized.
Okay.
Because then you're normalizing something means that it's accepted in society, that it's totally fine.
Okay.
And that's not. Being a white supremacist is not totally fine.
But you don't want them in the closet. Then you don't know when you're interacting with them.
I mean, I don't care if I'm interacting with somebody who likes to get spanked. I just don't want to. I don't think it belongs in public.
Okay.
The thing about the word normalize is like it's so not letting things happen naturally. Like if naturally people started becoming more okay with whatever it is, even white supremacy, like something that you wouldn't think would happen. Well, if that starts to naturally happen, there's nothing really wrong with that. But I don't think that kink in the streets is going to naturally become more accepted. So why force it? I just don't think things should be like forced on other people. And I'm not saying it like a nap aggression necessarily.
Yeah. It's not being forced. You don't have to go to the parade. You don't have to go to the story time hour.
But you have to pay for the street where they're doing it on.
Yeah, so eliminate that part.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine, but it's a whole separate issue. It's a whole separate issue.
It's the solution to your problem.
I mean, privatizing everything is the solution to all problems.
Yeah, so strike at the root. If you want to strike at the root, strike at the root.
No more problems. Privatize everything.
There you go.
Is the only problem now. Show's over, guys.
Then you'll wave a flag when they get private properties for someone to allow them to march, and then invite the kids. And some writer for the Washington Post takes her kids. Right? They're still going to go. Mm-hmm. If you want to expose them to make it normal.
Well, then let's start talking about this as if it happened on a private street. I still think that there can still be things to talk about that should be spoken out against.
Do you have to close your curtains when you have sex in your living room?
No, you don't have to.
You probably should.
If you're an exhibitionist and you want people who drive by or walk by to see you.
Okay, yes. You want people to drive by and walk by to see you because they are now participating in your kink
and they
against their consent.
It's not against their consent. It's a public road that they're on. Private house, public road.
Okay.
No one consented to seeing people having sex just because they're driving down the street.
Right.
So
nobody said.
So force them to close the curtains on their private property then. So you don't have to see them.
No one's forcing it. I'm not saying that these people should have their kids taken away. I'm not saying I'm going to go down there and beat them into submission to not do these things. I'm saying that they should just not do it. They should be better people and have respect for others and, not do it. Just don't do it. If you want to have a space where you have these kinds of things, make it explicitly said that this is not family friendly. This is going to happen here.
Family friendly is your judgment. They think it is. They got the space. They rented the public roads. They got the permit for their parade.
I don't understand how anyone could believe that these types of things are appropriate for children.
We have an article in the Washington Post saying the very thing.
She's mentally ill.
You're free to judge that.
I think that most people would agree that that type of thing is not family friendly.
Yes, most
but
people
I also
would
think
agree.
Most people think that about
in the public.
Like plain nudity. Most people do think that about plain nudity, that it's not family friendly, and I disagree with that.
Yeah, you had the whole thing at Porkfest about that.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is a natural existence. The naked
That's
body
part of who you are.
Right, it is part of who you are. You are naturally existing in your body.
Okay.
There's no every single person has a naked body, right?
Okay.
Not everybody is going to be into watching a guy get flogged.
So don't go to the parade.
Don't promote it as family-friendly events
Don't
that
take
all the
your kids.
taxpayers are paying for.
Again, we go back to who's paying for it and privatize the roads.
I won't take my kids.
Well, I really think that if everything was privatized, it'd be a lot less likely that this stuff would really happen, because these people are getting off, and I don't mean pride parades, I mean like the kink people in the streets, because I think these people are getting off on like, you don't want to see it, well, I'm going to show you anyway because I have the freedom to do that. And it's like, I don't think they, because I don't hear about them renting halls where they just show each other their kinks. I mean, you're saying there's orgies,
I mean,
that's like
do. Yeah,
with the
there's sex
express,
parties.
that's with the express ability to just have sex. Like, that's not just like, hey, come look at this. Like, we're walking around in
they
a
have
circle.
meetups. You can just go. They have meetups. You can go to dinner, go to lunch with them, do normal things.
They call them munches.
They do.
Okay.
Yes, but so you even said it in your example. Someone who's an exhibitionist wants you to see it.
Yes.
And you don't think it's wrong to self-gratify.
But they're not doing it in your face. They're not coming to your house and like doing it in your window on your lawn.
You are making the other person a participant.
You're not making them anything. You're doing it on your own private property, and they are choosing to participate by looking or not.
If somebody driving by your house and happening to see that is an essential part of your kink, that they see it, you are requiring their participation for sexual gratification.
You're not requiring it. It just happens to be there.
You are requiring it to get the kink.
But
like
I
if
do
your
think-
kink is exhibition, it is required that the other person see you.
But I do think it's not like you can't drive past someone's house without looking in the window.
You can drive past someone's house without looking in the window? Or you
Right,
can't?
that's what
You
I'm
have
saying.
to look in the window?
That's what I'm saying, that you do not have to look in people's
Okay.
window just because you're driving past the house. So therefore, I think it's a bit of a gray area.
So presumably someone who looks and continues to look wants to look.
But this is not looking in someone's window either. It's just on the street in public.
Which they have the right they have the permitted right to access at that time. It's a public street. They bought the permit, right? You could go to the parade, you can not go to the parade. If you go to the parade, presumably you want to see it, and if you see it and you don't leave the parade, I assume you still want to see it.
It is not so, but that's not how the Pride Parade is promoted. It's not promoted as a kink festival.
But you get there and you go like, nope, not the parade for me, and you turn around and leave. Right? Those that stay obviously want to see it.
I think it's a bit of a misuse of the word right to say like everyone has the right to be on the public road, because the thing is like you actually don't have the right to steal from someone and have something that you use. Like just because you paid for it too. Well, it's all unjust. It's just like a whole unjust system. So you really don't quote unquote have the right. You probably didn't even pay the price of an entire road. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all wrong. It's not right. So I don't even know if you can say you have the right to do blah 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 in public.
So say the end goal is achieved and this is normalized and it's
Then you
fun,
won't see parades
and
anymore.
Everyone can do it. And now you have the exhibitionist standing in front of your house because they like you and they want you to see them doing these things. Now you're trapped inside your house. Otherwise, if you go outside, you are now consenting to participation because according to you, if you look, you want to see it.
Well, if they're at your house and on your
Outside,
property.
in the front.
Well,
like
they're
on
on the public street.
in
Okay.
front of your house.
And what I'm suggesting is that once it's normalized, that behavior will cease.
But I don't think that's the case because it's been like
It's
the
not
gays already have their normalized stuff and they're still having parades.
So if everybody's just like exhibitionism is A-okay, there will be no more exhibitionists. Nobody will be into it anymore.
No, it's not that there'll be no more exhibitions. They won't do it in a parade. There's no reason to flaunt it.
No, now it'll be normal and they'll just do it in the middle of the street.
But there is a reason. The reason is the coolness of it, because that's why gays who have been like totally fine to most people, at least in America, for like a long time,
not a long
still
time,
go and have
a long
parades.
time to us for our lifetime.
All right, not a long time though.
A long time in our lifetime.
In some people's whole lifetimes, it's been fine to be gay, and they still go to parades just because it is fun and gives you like a cool factor, blah, blah, blah. There's still an incentive to go, even if it's been normalized.
Well, if it's normalized, though, people will just do it wherever, because now it's normalized and it's fine. And the people who are not okay with it, well, that's just too bad.
Yeah.
It's normalized now.
Now you're the marginalized group. Go have a parade.
Now you just have to deal with this happening.
We're gonna have our own parade where we are all clothed.
Now you're automatically consenting to some dude whacking it in the street because it's normal and everyone has to look now, because if you walk out of your house, if you walk out of your house and he's doing it at the intersection at your house where you have to leave and go to work, well, too bad. I don't know, fly over.
I don't want
There are
to look or even
at
be near
multiple
that.
intersections, and I don't look at them at all.
I don't want to look, and I also don't want to be near it. Like,
you wouldn't know they were there if you didn't look at them.
I don't want some guy to be doing that.
See it.
What about some
And then
guy
I
doing
avert
that
my
and
eyes.
looking at you? It's not the only problem isn't like looking. There's more problem to this than just looking. Like the fact that somebody's feet away from me and I have to walk past while I'm walking my dog and they're jerking it while looking at me. That's a problem.
Who owns the land that you're walking your dog? This goes back to the privacy issue.
Well,
If it's
say
public
that
land,
it's
then-
private and we both own it because we both paid into a subscription service. It's still not okay.
Okay. That's a judgment. But if you both paid into it, you have equal
If
access.
somebody's doing that to me, I would feel justified shooting them.
And your morality doesn't supersede theirs.
My gun would supersede them.
Then you would be the aggressor.
We do have a call from Bill Welcher. Hi, Bill.
Oh, hi.
Hi, what would you like to talk about?
Are you guys talking about a lot of stuff you talked about last night? It seems like you are. It seems to sound familiar.
Last night we talked about a lot of Trump.
Yeah, Trump and like morality also, but
I also wasn't
religion.
here last
We
night.
talked about religion last night.
Lori and I were here, but Richard was not here last night.
Oh, okay. Well, there was a guy there, but I didn't realize it wasn't the same one.
Yeah, different guy.
You're gonna tick him off by saying that.
Huh? No, I'm pretty.
He doesn't like it when
man.
people
I don't
confuse
get,
us.
I don't get upset anymore.
Oh no, not you. He's saying peakless mountaineer will get upset for you confusing them too. But what do you have an opinion about maybe this article we're talking about with kink in the street at pride parades?
I think that the Pride Parade is just no. That's not what I called about, but that's okay. We can talk about that.
Okay.
I think that I think Pride Parade we have them where I live at, and they aren't real big, but you know they get along just fine. And if you want to go down and be involved in it, they get quite a few people. A lot of straight people are there just to kind of see what's going on, and then they have, you know, food to buy and things, little gifts to buy and balloons, and the kids are having a big time. And you know, we're surrounded by the Ohio River, and so our downtown is built along the shores of the river, and so it goes from the river all the way back for about 6 blocks. That whole area will just be covered with people when they have the Pride Parade or any other parade, and everybody seems to get along fine. They have it's kind of like any excuse for a party. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is it a nice
And
family-friendly event?
yeah, it actually is. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you see, you'll see people down there who are gay, but you'll see a lot of people who aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's clowns and there's food vendors and bands, different types of bands, country and western bands, rock bands, actual like marching bands.
It sounds like a nice event for people to go to and see that we're all just humans and can get along, and it sounds family friendly.
I think it is, and I think I know that I was a police officer for 30 years, and that was one of the biggest issues that I had is, why do I have to mess with these guys? You know, because they'd say, "Oh, you need to go down there. We're getting complaints about these gays hanging out doing this and doing that.
See?
And I'd go down there and look. And I'm
Doing what?
There's not much going on. It just seems like regular business.
People were calling you to go break up the Pride Parade.
Not calling me, they would call
Dispatch.
Yeah.
Central Dispatch, and then I'd get
It's crazy.
sent to on the run to go down there and check on it and see, is there something going on that we don't know about? Because these people are calling saying
Deviant
they're
behavior.
doing that.
Also in Keene, there's a parade that's basically like what you're describing from what I've heard. Like friends of mine I haven't actually went to the Keene Pride Parade. For some reason they do it in September here. I think it's because that's when the
best
college
month
kids
in New England.
and because the college kids are back, they're not in June.
See, and that sounds like those are totally cool and great. Like an actual pride parade where it's just people showing that we're all human beings and we all are valid and our existences are valid and not some excuse.
Including those with kinks.
Yes, they're also valid to have kinks.
Well,
all right.
You don't need to parade them in the streets.
The thing that's funny is they'd send me down there. Here I am in a squad car with a uniform on a list of, and I drive down there. They're just like most other. They've hired off-duty security police officers.
Mm-hmm.
They're working off duty, making very, very good money to make sure there's no problems.
Yeah.
And they walk down through there, and everybody sees them, talks to them. How you doing? What's going on? There's never any problem. I don't think that in all the years I was on the department, I ever even heard of a problem at something like the Pride Parade. And then we also had a couple of gay bars, I don't know, 3 or 4 gay bars in the downtown area that I don't think we ever got to run there. I went in there a couple of times just to say hi to the bartender. How you doing? How's things going? Everything okay?
Yeah, and it's not that I think that every pride parade is like this, but there are certainly some pride parades in very large cities that are all about this behavior. Well, not all about, but there's a large portion of people there that are there for that behavior. And like I was watching videos of people at the pride parade, and there was all these guys there. It was a lot of men, white, straight men. They would come out and say, hey, how do you identify? And they'd be like, oh, I'm cisgender. If that's how, that's how people want to identify me. And they're literally there just as exhibitionists and displaying their kinks as exhibitionists. And for no reason, like they're not supporting the actual community.
No reason. That's right. There's nobody else doing it except them.
So a cisgendered white male is flogging another cisgendered white male, and you're considering them both to be cisgendered.
No, not that particular instance, but there's a lot of white men who are there doing, questionable things, and and they're there just simply to be exhibitionists.
Okay.
Watch a couple of videos of these.
I don't want to.
Well, you would see if you did.
Hey, you need to normalize it.
I don't want
normalize
to.
it. You should
No,
watch
I'm
it.
already accepting.
I just never saw that was a big deal. I was a detective for several years, and before I made sergeant, and then went on up before I retired captain, and I just never really had any problems ever, or even any of my people come back to me and say, oh man, you've got to do something about this, this bar or this place or this event.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
What state are you in?
Indiana.
But
we're right where Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky come together.
Okay.
The Wabash River and the Ohio River.
But you do recognize that prior to that normalization, that those bars would have been less than welcome in those neighborhoods.
Oh, I think so. I think when I first got on, and I was talking to guys who'd been on, in the late 60s and before, they had a completely different attitude about it.
Yeah.
But they hired, they got, one of those federal grant deals, they hired probably 30 officers at once, and I was one of them. And it was a completely different deal. Most of them had, if not a college education, at least 1 or 2 years and they'd been around for a while. They'd worked somewhere, they just were not. It was not the same attitude or I don't know opinion towards the way things ought to be. A lot of the guys that I knew that were older than me, they had no experience. They'd come out of the military because that was when everybody got drafted, and many of them had been in the Korean War and stuff like that. One of my old partners was a Korean War veteran, and man, it was like sometimes it was like talking to a brick wall, talking to him.
And do you think the cultural attitude would have changed if the gay community was forced to remain in the closet and hide their sexual nature from the rest of society?
Oh, that's what these guys wanted. They didn't want to see them. They didn't want to know about them. And the gay bars that we had, they would fight not to make the runs.
So
where guys like me get the run, you just make it.
One thing though is normalizing a person's existence, okay? And the other is normalizing exposing yourself to people in the streets. And they're not the same.
But straight people have always been normalized, but their bedroom activities are not and should not be broadcast in public. I think that's where there's this disconnect.
But they would have said the same about gay people and lesbians. I don't want to see it. I don't want to broadcast it.
They're not the same.
They're treated the same.
It's not the same thing, though.
Heterosexuals and homosexuals cannot do any of those types of things in public, as far as we're concerned. Or I used to be concerned. I don't care anymore.
Sounds like a good little town.
Say again?
Sounds like a nice little town.
It's about 150,000 people, yeah.
Oh, okay. It's pretty big for New Hampshire.
Yeah. Well, for New Hampshire, Vermont, some of those states, it is.
That's bigger than the biggest town in New Hampshire.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's bigger than Manchester, New Hampshire. It's like 100,000.
Yeah.
Maybe a little
more. The New
more.
England states are very small.
The farthest I've been up that way is like Massachusetts. So I've never been to Vermont or New Hampshire.
Massachusetts has way bigger towns and cities.
Yeah, they had some. I thought so. I thought they had some.
Yeah, Boston being the most notable.
Big places.
I mean, everything here is pretty. Like all the states are small. You can drive across all of New England in a few hours. What is it? 6 hours?
I listen to you guys. I listen to you guys on the radio whenever you're on, and I listen to some of the events that you have. They sound a lot like the stuff we have in some of our towns, but not this particular one, but some of our towns were near Bloomington, Indiana, which is where Indiana University is. They have a lot of activities where people can go there and they can buy food and walk around and enjoy the different atmosphere of the community, and it's not the same as some other places. So,
are you talking about like events we have here, like Pork Fest? Is that were you listening to some of those episodes? Yeah, I think the one thing that I feel like is missing in other states, where it's like, I've been to like little festivals here and there in different places that I've lived, including like Texas and Utah. I feel like what's missing and what's so special and good about New Hampshire is the fact that people who believe something, it's pretty rare, they believe in the non-aggression principle, can come together and coexist peacefully in events like Pork Fest.
Unless you're naked.
Thanks. You can be naked. Thanks for your call, Bill. It's Free Talk Live. Thanks for joining us for the show tonight. 603-283-6160. Call in next time. Get on the air with us. Talk about whatever you want.
The ultimate bargain is free. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. Before you can fully type the Buy Nothing Project, Google will finish it for you. It's that popular now. Their mission statement is buy less, share more. It makes us all richer and our planet cleaner. You can give away or ask for whatever you want free. Appliances, workout gear, concert and event and travel tickets, and intangibles. Offer the world your photo or poem or short story.